Hey, Jack, do you want to get a cup of coffee today? You got coffee? John, you drinking coffee? You drinking some other stuff?
I got my rainbow farting unicorn today because I need some magic in my life.
I have my calamity wear with all the destruction.
Where is that from?
Yeah, where is that from?
It's calamityware.com, and they have all these like creepy patterns. It's great.
Oh, that's cool. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the plates and cups that everybody's
Corningware. Corningware.
Yeah,
Corningware. That's what I'm thinking. Calamity wear. I got it. All right, yeah.
Except for there's like a pterodactyl and a giant frog and like
that's pretty good.
A robot. Yeah, I love it.
Everybody's dishes were either that kind of grayish blue color or that like off yellow, orangey color and white. Like every single person had the same dishes.
And the Tupperware.
And Tupperware. Oh, you have a Tupperware party though, bro. Right?
Yeah.
But that stuff lasted.
It's still out.
Still do those? Does Tupperware still have like an MLM where like people do Tupperware parties?
Oh yeah.
They do?
But their older Tupperware is way more durable.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how they sell it, but we go to all these antique malls and stuff, and there's tons of it still out there.
Tupperware?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Those lids don't crack.
Everything old is better.
And now all the Rubbermaid stuff, like it's not even meant to last. They say that you can reuse it once or twice, and we just keep it in there and use it until it just fails. The lid's always eventually crack.
Yeah.
Everything's gone to shit. I did a post yesterday about Pizza Hut.
Oh yeah.
In the 80s, you went to Pizza Hut, dude was throwing the dough.
Yeah.
Dad whipped out a 20, got a pitcher of beer, pizza for everybody, 4 salad bars, had change for a tip and to play Gallagher or Space Invaders.
Arcade games, yeah.
We used to be a proper country. What happened?
Did you have Shakey's Pizza?
No. I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen one in real life.
Yeah, man, you see all those Pizza Huts everywhere now in their donut shops or sushi places, but they still have that roof.
I blame Little Caesars. They fucked everything up. They gave everybody 2 pizzas for $5, and that's what they expected. So all the quality was
pizza.
Pan.
Yeah, they put ham and pineapple on pizza at the same. They're the first people to do it. They should. Whoever did that should be dug out of their grave and killed again and put back in it.
And avoid the Noid. Wasn't that?
That was Domino's.
Yeah, 30 minutes or less.
Domino's. That was Gary Vaynerchuk.
They still exist too, don't they?
We have
Gary Vaynerchuk did a seminar with a bunch of Domino's franchisees, and he basically said, "You guys are fucked. Everything I say to do, you can't do because you're a franchisee. All I got is one piece of advice for you: bring the Noid back." And then he actually tried to help him, but that was his joke going into it. Bring back the Noid because that's all you ever had.
Because it's not the top-notch quality Domino's pizza.
I forgot about the Noid, man. The Noid was awesome.
Man, we used to be able to get a pizza anywhere in under 30 minutes. It was literally for a long time. It was 30 minutes or free. And then Pizza Hut, I don't think we had 30 minutes or free. I worked at Pizza Huts for years and years as a delivery driver. And man, we'd leave with 4 or 5 customers and hit all of those and still be back in under 30 minutes, just the way they routed them. And we had a map. I mean, you just knew where all that stuff was.
Okay, I've got one from Bob Lester. Jack, do you have a contact at Acellus? My son is limited to 40 steps a week per subject. I haven't had any luck with the help desk to let him go faster. So he has a super smart kid, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know why he hasn't gotten any help, but I don't have any. I tell people this all the time. They don't believe me. I have no special relationship with Acellus at all. I should. If they had a freaking affiliate program, I think I would have bought another car by now with it. But I don't know why he's not getting help from the desk. I mean, every time we've needed them, they've been great. But what did he say? How many hours?
40 steps a week per subject.
He's probably hacked the system.
They might actually be onto something, dude, because that's per subject. 4 subjects, that's 160 steps a week. They probably have some flow control on it because kids can game that system. You might want to sit over his shoulder and watch a bit. I don't know, man.
He's very smart and conniving.
AJ says they limit it to 40 a week for accreditation. So that may be a thing.
Well, that's
maybe he's just going all in on one subject at a time rather than doing 4 at once.
Yeah, we've done that a bit with like doubling up on 2 subjects. We've had the kids do that, and that way they can give all their attention to whatever they struggle with before they move on. And that flexibility is nice, but I don't know, man. Like, I would say that's just like you have to take a certain amount of time to really process information. It might be a good thing.
The thing I love about Acellus is that every time somebody objects to homesteading, I'm not homesteading, homeschooling.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't possibly teach your kid. How could you find the curriculum? I'm like, well, go look at this website.
Yeah.
And then you start reading.
Go look at the 7,000-ish schools, public schools that are using Acellus at public school while the teacher sits on her ass and plays the Acellus lessons and then ask me that question again. That's my response to that.
Yep. Hey, we're still on dominoes in the comments. Okay, guys. It's been a month. Well, it's been 2 months since we talked because I decided to get ridiculously sick in August. So what are you thinking about the election? Let's go there.
Okay. John, you first.
I don't know. I mean, do you think we'll have an election? Do you think they're going to let Trump win? If Trump does win, is that when you're going to see a black swan on that first day of office? Who knows? I mean, roll your dice.
So I think they will try to steal the election, which they always do. I think that Democrats don't like completely rig it. They rig it somewhat, and they rely on the close election to the little bit of rigging to push them over the line. So all this shit, they're going to cancel the election or don't. Just stop. Stop the Alex Jones shit. Quit it. No more. Don't want to hear it anymore. Been hearing it for 25 fucking years. No more. Stop it. We'll have an election. My hope is that what Trump's signaling, if he wins, that he's actually done, which is learn. And I have my doubts. And what I mean by that is he seems to be understanding the concept of find the best person for the job and put them in a fucking place where they can only do the thing they're good at. And what I mean by that, like he's basically told RFK, like, hey, come join the team. I'll put you over like HHS, which that means he doesn't get to touch money. No monetary policy for RFK. Put him over what he's good at. Apparently, he's now said, I read this morning, that he's going to put Elon Musk in charge of auditing all agencies for efficiency and payments. Perfect. No policy. You don't get to touch policy, Elon. Don't want to hear about your freaking environmental bullshit and carbon taxes. Audit efficiency. That's what you're good at. So I'm hoping if he wins, he'll bring in a team that way where you take a person and go, here's the batshit crazy. Let me put them in a role where their power can only be for good. We'll see if that happens. The reality, though, is I completely believe Kamala Harris can win this, even if they don't cheat. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but our country's just that stupid. I mean, really, they are. I mean, have you seen these videos where they ask people, like, who are you voting for? Kamala. Why? Because she's great.
And she's nice.
What do you like about her? She's joyful. Okay. She's a woman. She's black. She was a prosecutor. She was a VP. Okay. Tell me one thing she did that you like. Well, she was a good vice president. Great. Tell me one thing she did while she was vice president that you like. One policy. Well, I need to do some research.
Yeah.
Right. And those people walk among us. They're everywhere. And they're highly motivated right now because no matter how bad she is, you couldn't have a better candidate in for the Republicans than Trump if you're a Democrat right now. Because all you got to do is motivate hatred. And hatred is a very powerful force, as we learned in Star Wars.
And those videos aren't just cherry picked. I had the opportunity to hang out in the region of the country last week where there's a lot more Kamala support. Mm-hmm. And I had some conversations. Just, Yeah.
Well,
why?
Yeah.
And they all went like that.
Yeah.
Because she's not an asshole. And
because she's not Trump.
Yeah. That was kind of what it boiled down to.
You have two surgeons. One has a death rate on their operating table of 90%. The other has a survival rate of 90% in very risky surgeries. The guy with the 90% survival rate is a fucking asshole. The guy with the 10% survival rate is very nice. Who do you want doing your surgery?
The asshole, of course.
I want the asshole.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing this, like I said this a long time ago. I always thought it was stupid that we have kids have mock elections in grade school and high school. that it's fucking retarded. There's no reason we should do it, especially like in grade school. Like you got like a fifth grader, a fourth grader voting for the president. First time I ever voted was second grade. I voted for Reagan when I was like 7 years old. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I just listened to what everybody said around me. But then I said, maybe there's some brilliance to this, because the next thing you do is you put in student government. And what does student government accomplish? Absolutely nothing, right? Who gets elected? Popular kids. Popular kids that want to get elected. Like, so it's never like the super popular kids because they don't run, but it's like the most popular of the kids that run. The guy that's cute, the girls vote for, whatever. Well, you know, maybe it's closer to American politics than we realize, because they're not the ones actually. Do you think right now that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden is in charge of this country? Do either of you believe that? I know you don't. So I think that what they're doing is they're going to vote like, who do I want to be the picture of the job? And they just, I think these people aren't as dumb as they seem. Like they really just say, well, it doesn't matter who we elect because the team's going to do the job anyway. And we just need this face, this figurehead. And that plays straight into the whole DEI, all that shit. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Now for something completely different. John should answer this first because he's doing a rabbit session at SRF boot camp. How many times can a buck rabbit breed in a day? Can I breed all 3 does in one day, or do I need to space it out?
They say to leave your female in the buck's cage until he breeds her 3 times. Can you take him to a second female and third? You could. I would think that the sperm and the insemination rate would probably be lower. I don't know why you would do that. Now, I breed him, and I am I'm breeding rabbits right now. I'm putting a female into a male's cage, and I've got 6 or 7 good bucks that I'm using. And I actually space them out. So when I leave the female in there all day, the next morning I take the female, put her back in her cage, and I don't breed him on that second day. I put another female in his cage on 3 days. So I actually space it to where, because I do leave them in there all the time. Now you'll hear them say the buck breeds her and falls off. And if you haven't ever seen it, as soon as you see it, you'll know what it means. Some bucks will sneeze, some will grunt. He'll hump on her. She'll lift when she's receptive, and he will literally fall over on his side like he has passed out, or like a fainting goat does. Now, I've also had females that I've put in there exposed to bucks. She never lifts. I put her back in her cage, and she has babies, and I never rebred her. So it's not always that she has to lift to get inseminated. So I don't know why you would do all in the same day unless you're just trying to get all of those litters at the same time. But when they also say 30 days, man, it's almost 30 days. When you breed her, it's almost 30 days to the hour.
Yep.
Sounds
it's
like
actually kind of nice to space out the births too, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Not so much can you, but do you want that many kits at one time? Like I personally wouldn't, but I guess if you had like, I don't know, a big order from a customer, maybe you kind of want to. But I mean, even a couple days apart.
Or for slaughtering, I mean, but even then, if they're just 1 day, 2 days apart, you can still process them all at the same time. But we use them for dog food, so we bulk up. I want a lot of them, and then at about 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to pull them out, put them on grass.
Yeah. Yeah, homesteading. You're going to talk about poop, and you're going to talk about sex. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
Mostly poop.
Mostly poop. Yeah.
There's one of Jeff Lawton's DVDs. I don't remember which one. Like there's a part where he's going into a farm, and it's like warning. Smells, animals having sex, all kinds of stuff like that's on this sign when you walk into the farm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did they do it as a joke? Or it seemed like a place like where they bring kids and parents and stuff for school trips and shit. Or did they do it because like literally people didn't accept that? Like, or expect that, I guess, not accept it, expect it. Like, oh my God, look at what they're doing. Well, that's what, what's the chicken do? What's the chicken doing? Well, the rooster, he's getting bugs off the back of the chicken. We had a really little girl at the farm we had in West Virginia for a while that was there a lot. And that's what her dad told her. And she tells the whole group one time, she goes, he's getting bugs off her. And that one there must have a lot of bugs because he's always doing it to her.
Yep. I think it's also that people buy property in the country near farms and then are horrified to discover there are smells and all sorts of things that happen on farms.
You mean when you're near a farm, then farm things happen near you?
Yes.
Like, that's shocking. Yes.
Yeah.
And we do live in a world where people think that way. That it's, I don't know. It's so bizarre to me. And I don't know if it's just how I grew up or whatever. Like, I did a post last night. It was an engagement farming post. Like, here's a bunch of shit I've eaten that most people wouldn't even try. What have you eaten? And what have you tried? And I think even that, like, just like one of the things on my list was raccoon. Another was like muskrat. Well, do you know why we ate that? We didn't eat it like to be goofy or something, like, hey, I shot a muskrat today. I was a trapper, right? I ran a trap line in high school for money because back in the 80s, you could still make decent money as a trapper. Like, a good coon was $25. An okay coon was $15. Muskrat was like $10 to $15, depending on quality. So, I mean, you could go out on a given day before school. What I'd pull in from the trap line might be like $200. And back then, that was more money than some, grown-ass men were making. 2 days, you could make more than a person with a full-time job made a week. But we were poor because you only could do that for a limited period of time. There's a season. And you don't throw away good meat. Like, what you think about if you have like 5 coons come in and, they're going to be dressed out. They're going to be good 15 pounds of meat per big coon, maybe 10 for a smaller one. You're going to throw away 100 pounds, even 30 pounds of meat when you don't have a lot of money. Like, we just did that. And I guess kind of growing up that way, like, it doesn't make sense to me that people would actually go to a place and then complain about the thing at the place that they chose to go to.
We have a guy that's been doing beavers. So he takes the beavers and grinds them up and mixes the beaver with venison for his sausage and stuff. I think there's some hog fat in there too, probably. But
yeah,
old dude showed up looking for a holster, saw the pressure canners, and he's like, that's what I want to talk about. I'm like, well, talk. And he went on. He's got a market garden. They were doing the farmers market in Franklin. Like, they're doing pretty big stuff. He's running, I think he's got 5 acres planted up, but they have 10 acres, and just him and his wife. And then he tells me he's 75 years old. I would have never guessed he was 75.
It's when you stay active, you age slower.
I think so. I think the other thing, and I think it's kind of the dead stop that people do that makes them age so fast. And maybe that's part of why, like, I don't really think it's modern medicine that's making people live longer. I mean, I do know some people get like a cancer that would have been terminal 25 years ago and now they have a treatment, but those are more one-offs. I think it's that people have stopped this, like the silent generation and the GIs seem like they had this pattern of like 65, I'm going to retire. They got Social Security and they were done. They moved off to some like old folks place, but it wasn't like an old folks home. It was more like a neighborhood for older people, like 55 and up. And they had their little centers and all, and they felt like they were active, but they weren't really doing anything. And I think when you quit, your body's like, well, okay, you want to quit, let's quit. And everything starts going downhill. Where today, I think more people are staying active, maybe because they have to. I just read an article about people unretiring because of the economy. So people that were been retired 4 or 5 years are now going to get jobs because they can't afford to live anymore. And most of them said number 1 issue, food. Number 2 issue, energy, electric bills. And number 3 is rent. If they don't have a place they own, the price of rent has gone apparently parabolic.
Yeah. If you don't do the grocery shopping, go with your spouse next time to the grocery store. We were at Sam's Club and we bought 5 or 6, 7 items. There was 3 ribeyes in there, a pack of chicken breast, tube of hamburger, some lithium batteries, which have about 8 less batteries than they had the last time I bought them. And the price is up considerably. And I said, how much is this when we checked out? I think she said it was $275. You could see through the bottom of the grocery cart. It wasn't even, if you pushed it all together, half the grocery cart wasn't even covered on the bottom.
Anybody that's eating like factory beef still, if you're going to Albertsons, Publix, whatever the hell's around you, HEB, and you're buying individual steaks at this point, I don't really understand anymore. We just went and did a big run to the Costco Business Center in Dallas because we have the workshop coming up, and I needed like the whole pork loins and stuff like that. And a New York strip loin choice. It's a choice, whatever the middle one is, which is pretty damn good. Not prime, but the next one down was, I think, $6 a pound for the whole strip loin roast.
Yep.
You bring it home, boom, 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 you got your strips. My wife was like at the store and just like, I want good steak tonight and I don't want to defrost it. So she grabbed a package of 2-yard strips, $21.
Yeah.
And they weren't that big.
One.
And it was like $12.99 a pound versus about half of that if you bought the whole thing. And if, like, I know some people don't want to be breaking down really big cuts, but if you can't break down a ribeye roast, a rib roast, or a strip loin roast, then you don't even know how to use it. I don't know how you eat. If you can cut your own meat and eat it, you should be able to pull that one off.
Right now in Tennessee, if you process a cow, or a half cow, you're looking at $350 to $450 a pound.
Okay.
On the lower side, and up to $650 to $850 a pound average for the whole thing. And that's one of the ways to beat inflation is to do that. And if you can't handle a whole cow, then find some friends and get the cow and divide it up.
Yeah.
But A, the meat is so much better, and B, you are less taxed by the $12.99 a pound. Meat. So I've been asked recently to do a whole series on if you're retired and all of a sudden inflation happened, like what are some ideas to bring costs down? That one's low hanging fruit if you're a meat eater.
Yeah.
Like you're going to eat it anyway.
Yeah. And you can either do that, like I said, or you can start buying the big cuts. Like even if you don't have a business center, because I hate going there. It's freaking Dallas. Dallas sucks. It's an hour both ways in Dallas traffic. But even like the regular Costco's, a lot of times if you go ask, like you said, you have a whole truck roll, they'll have in the back like, well, what do you want with it? Why do you care? What will you sell it to me for? And they'll go back and grab you a couple, like a whole chuck roll. You can, I mean, that's a lot of meat. And if you learn to break it down, I did a podcast I did 2 of them actually on how to break down these different cuts. And I'll tell you, I think for meat eaters, chuck is the most underrated piece of meat on the cow. I really do. We did 25 pounds of brisket sausage this weekend for the workshop. And I knew this, I did the offset smoker and sausage doesn't have to be on there that long. So I knew I'd have leftover coals. So I had like a 4-pound chuck roast. I threw that on the offset smoker once the sausage was off, smoked it for 2 hours, threw it in a vac seal bag, and then sous vide it for 10 hours the next day. I don't know if I'll ever smoke a brisket again. I mean, it was that good. I think I'm going to actually do that for the Thursday or the Saturday meal. I'm going to add a smoked chuck roast. And it's $3, $3.49 a pound or something like that if you buy it right.
Yeah. Brian says we have a group of friends going in on 3 cows. Farmer is delivering a couple hours of whey because we are ordering so much. Yeah, make your own co-op. You don't need to wait for one.
Wait around the system. I won't do it. I won't deliver it. What if we buy 3?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's a lot of meat, man. I remember the first time we ever did a half cow and I went and picked it up. And like I grabbed this huge heavy box and threw it in the back of the car. And the guy's like, oh, no. Here's another box.
Oh, wait, there's more
boxes because I got the bones. And I ended up with the bones, though, from the whole cow because the dude I split it with didn't want the bones. So I had like all the marrow bones and everything. It was like 4 huge freaking boxes.
Yep. Everybody's going off on chuck eye. $5 to $7 a pound cheaper than ribeye. Sure. I like ribeye a lot, though.
We got to be careful, though. Didn't we ruin chuck eyes? Chuck eyes used to be so cheap. And then everybody, it's not a secret now because everybody knows.
Yeah.
Like you used to get chuck eye for like $1.99.
Yeah. Well, I mean, beef used to be 89 cents a pound too, but it's now $4 ground, 20% fat.
Yeah.
We've been tracking it for 3 years now, I think. And that one has gone up for sure.
I don't even know why people do that though. If you own a grinder, you can go get a choice brisket for less than that per pound and just chunk it up and throw it in the grinder. It's brisket. Yeah, but it costs less and it's better ground meat. Like what? Because you're not eating pig slime, right? Because we know they brought that back. It went away for like 45 seconds when it came on the radar, and then they just, we'll bring it back after everybody even remembers.
Yeah. So question, Jack, what do you use your beef bones for?
Bone stock, man. Unless like the big femurs and all, we'll do roast marrow with those. But most of the bones we just make stock with.
Yep. I just bought a house with 1.4 acres, a quarter woods, muscovies, a few chickens to make compost, Nigerian dwarf goats, and possibly meat rabbits. I want a perma orchard. What first?
Why do you want the goats?
I was like,
I mean, people automatically buy them because it's especially the smaller ones, because it's a compact livestock. But if you want that orchard, man, the first time those goats get out, that's the first thing they're going to eat. So fencing, if you don't have the goats, you can save a lot of money on permanent or reinforced fencing by not having those goats. People get them because it's a cute thing and they see the trampolines and stuff, but the goats don't really add anything, man. And if you really want the benefits of the goat, I would say get sheep instead.
Yeah, it's the myth that goats are the only way to clear the land. And granted, I have cleared land with goats here, but I was surprised at what sheep eat. They don't eat everything that goats eat, but they do a pretty good job of clearing the brush, especially if you get sheep that are accustomed to doing that.
And if you confine them, I mean, if you're going to do the goats, you could confine those too. We have a 10x20 tractor, and I put 3 sheep in there, and they'll scalp the ground if you want it scalped. And if you don't want the ground scalped, they'll eat everything in there and then just move it, twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And the key to that rotational grazing is to just eat the third of the seed head down. If your sheep or your goats aren't eating off the ground, then you really don't have to vaccinate for a parasite load because they're never eating in their feces.
And if you're moving them too, because then they're not accumulating it in their hooves either. If you get sheep instead of goats, here's some things you won't have. Goats on your roof, Nicole. Goats on your Porsche, John. Goats also will do shit like you have this tree. It's really tall. They can't get to the browse. But it's a young tree. They'll literally walk it down. Like they'll get on it. Like when you would, like a kid, and you would bend one over to make a lean-to or something. They'll walk it down. They'll team up and do that shit and strip it completely off.
And the goats ate the bark off of all these pine trees out here. The sheep never did that. The goats also ate all the Christmas lights that we put up, which the sheep never did.
See, now that's the thing, right? So if my livestock gets out and eats my lettuce, I'm mad, but I get why you did that. When it's eating Christmas lights and it's eating freaking pine bark, you're like, why do I have you? So I love goat if it's already skinned. Like if you want to sell me a goat, just bring me the whole goat skinned and I'll take it from there. I don't want to deal with them. Yeah,
I've also never had sheep with their head stuck in the fence, but every goat always gets its head stuck any place it can get it stuck, and there'll be 2 other goats up there behind it mounting that thing until you get it out of there.
Yeah.
And now if you have that happen, you can put a piece of PVC pipe zip tied across the horns and prevent that. But you will, if you have any gap anywhere where that goat can get stuck, you will find it stuck.
Yeah, sheep will eat the bark off of things they like the taste of. So if you have fodder trees like poplar, like I do, or willow, they'll girdle those trees if you give them a chance. So until they're big enough to withstand some sheep pressure, you want to put something around it to keep the tree alive.
Nick Ferguson had a goat that he said stepped over between the wire because it was little enough to get between the 2 lines of wire, and it was getting shocked in its gut. And his fence will put you back in your back pocket. Yeah. I mean, it is. And he said this goat was sitting there. It would get electrocuted as it pulsed, and it would like, nah, and then it would start eating what it was after. And it'd sit there and chew it, and it would shake, and it'd go, nah, and it would just keep. And he said he sat there and watched it for 30 seconds before he finally shut the fence off and got it out. But it was sitting there being shocked and not really caring. And I'm like, see, I don't need this in my life. I just don't. Like, there are animals that are better behaved.
I had a turkey do that once, where it got caught in the fence, thought it was dead, and it walks off after it gets freed, and it was just sort of like, comes right back to the fence, does it again. Turkeys are dumb.
Nicole was doing a live version of the Roadrunner Coyote show, except the Roadrunner the Coyote was a turkey.
It was. Yeah, I'm not sure we'll ever raise turkeys again after that experience. It was they poop a lot.
I like them. My issue is they're almost too friendly, and I feel a little bit bad about when it's time to kill them. Because you're out doing something, like if you're building something, and all of a sudden you get that feeling that somebody's looking at you, and then you look back and you got a dozen turkeys, like, what are we doing? What's going on there? I had one time I was planting some seeds and they wanted to know what it was. And one of the big gobblers, like as soon as I set the seed packet down, he like comes over my arm, grabs the seed packet, and just goes fucking hauling ass. Like he knew I wanted it, so he ran. And it's a little, I don't know, it's a little bit hard for me to kill them when they're like that. You get these hitchhiker things on your socks and they come up and eat them off for you. Like it's like walking around your own little pack of pterodactyls or something, and then they all got to go. And the ones I raised, you don't really want to keep them too long because they get just too like the females end up with like there's no feathers on their breasts from dragging their breasts.
Now here's one. Can I combine potbelly pigs and chickens into the same pen, or just make mixed compost? Pig manure just seems closer to human or dog poop.
Yeah, when the chickens are big enough, maybe. Because if you throw little chickens in with pigs, they will freaking eat them.
Goats will eat them too.
I mean, Joel Salatin talks about he has some chicken breed they came up with, and they only want the females. And so the males, the little cockerels, they just throw them in a pig pen. And the pigs eat them right down.
Yeah, they have to be able to be like fly away.
Yeah.
Is the deal.
Yeah. Well, they have to not look like the marshmallow peep stage, right? Like, that's all that pig's looking at. Like, oh, I see what this is, right? So,
yeah.
Because I know Nick has had a huge pig, and there were chickens on its back and shit. So I know it can be done eventually, but I know little ones they're just gone.
Well, it also depends on the pig, right? Kind of like it depends on the dog. Yeah. What's it trained to do? And what does it learn to do? And how hungry is it?
Charlie was fine with chickens, but he ate babies.
We've got a ton of rabbits.
Like when they were really little, like a couple of days old, where he could just gulp. Like he was like, "Sorry, man. Like I had to eat it. It looked good."
We've got a ton of rabbits just for the manure. I've got contractor cement mixing trays underneath. And then every couple of weeks, we just empty those into a compost bin. And we can take that stuff and put it direct anywhere we plant. We can put it on the raised beds. We can put it around the trees. And we don't have to cool it off. We don't have to, worry about the nitrogen load in there. We don't have to worry about it frying plants. Whereas the pig manure, you're going to have to, and the chicken manure, you definitely have to. You're supposed to compost it for over a year to be able to use that stuff. Now, I mean, we've had places where we've kept chickens for a long time, or even had the goats for a very long time confined, and then plant direct into it, the next year. Well, months later, and stuff seems to grow just fine. So
that's my favorite part of rabbits, John, is the poop.
Mm-hmm. It's almost more valuable than the meat is.
Yeah. I mean, we mostly feed them here to the dogs. Like, we eat them from time to time, but we have so much beef that we eat the beef. But I mean, rabbit's delicious. But it does keep the livestock guardian dog food bill down for sure.
Yeah,
John, you really don't eat your rabbits at all, do you? They're almost all dog food.
Well, I mean, we're super spoiled. We got a dude that shops fresh meat every day. We don't defrost anything. The freezers are always full, but I mean, my guy buys a huge chunk of meat and cuts it into ribeyes, and we eat very, very well. And there's always leftovers, so much so that the employees even can take food home if they want to. But we have the rabbits. There's over 100 rabbits up there right now, and I've even got a brand new set of rabbits with 8 big, huge breeders that are enormous compared to my other stock. So we just it's meat on the hoof. We can take those babies, put them on grass. That cuts the pellet feed down to half. Grow those babies up and just keep the best of those for new stock. And then we can take the rest of them, just thump them and give them straight to the dogs. And they just gobble them up. So it's really the manure is the number one valuable out of there. And number 2 is meat for the dogs. But right now, I mean, I could go and we could kill out 20 full size rabbits and not even miss any of them if we needed to eat them.
Jim says rabbit stew at SRF.
Well, we are doing a rabbit processing at SRF.
Yeah. And the boot camp, what people are doing is processing rabbits, and we're cooking them for lunch that day.
Yep.
Or you don't get food.
That's
that's the purpose of a boot camp, right?
Yeah.
Bring your own food.
Yeah.
Eat what you killed or starve.
Yep. So, yeah, rabbits, I resisted them for a decade here. And the first year I had them, I was really bad at getting them to breed because I was overfeeding them, and a rabbit that eats too much and gets fat can't breed. Like, they can't close the deal, as it turns out, back to our first topic of today's show. And I didn't realize I'd done that. I was like, oh, fat animals on the farm are good animals on the farm, right? Nope, not true. But the benefit of the poop made me keep them. And then I figured out to put everybody on a diet.
Ah. Rabbit is not for jerky, though. No.
But you can, right? You could rabbit jerky. You just add it to something else.
But it's really not something you should be eating uncooked. I'll just put it to you.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's not beef, right? Like, it's not that it would taste bad. I would research it. Like pork, if you keep it below 5 degrees for like 21 days or something like that, it pretty much guarantees you any trichinosis cysts will rupture. So there may be some process like that with rabbit, but rabbit to me has never been something that one wishes to eat raw.
But caged bred rabbit is going to be very different. You're not going to have any trichinosis in a raised.
I'm not worried about trichinosis in a rabbit. I'm worried about other potential parasites.
There's some hemorrhagic fever running around, but if you don't have your rabbits where there's wild rabbits, you're not going to have any of that in those rabbits.
Does the hemorrhagic fever pass on to humans?
I don't. Well, they haven't spread that one. We're still back on West Nile, I think, right now. Monkeypox, which they've relabeled as mpox.
Oh, sloth fever. Sloth fever is the newest one, John.
Sloth. Yes, I saw that.
Sloth fever.
No,
I'm not kidding either. It's a thing.
Mm.
It's the new terrifying disease. There's like 13 cases in Europe, all from people that came from Africa. And it actually doesn't have anything to do with actual sloths, because sloths are in Central and South America. But
builder of castles, but you feed it raw to the dogs. Yeah, we feed it raw to the dogs. I'm not concerned. My dogs eat poop. My dogs drink out of ponds, and we ivermectin the dogs pretty frequently. So not concerned at all feeding it. We don't cook anything that goes to the dogs. My dogs eat raw, whole, bone-in chickens, everything. The first thing your dog would do if it got out is go find some dead stuff, roll in it, and then eat the ass end out of it.
So I think what people don't understand is like a dog's digestive system is why they can eat what will kill you. Their digestive system is very short compared to ours. Part of where we get into trouble is we have this incredibly long, small intestine in our system. And so our food spends an awful lot of time getting through our digestive system, where there's a lot more potential for pathogen to affect us. A dog is made to eat carrion. They evolved on carrion. If you think about dog-like creatures that are in the wild, many of them are not big enough to be running down elk and shit like that. Like a wolf pack, yeah, sure. But look at the size of the coyote. That animal's going to survive as much on eating rats and mice and rabbits as it is whatever the wolves left behind, or this carrion that fell over and whatever's left after. They're designed to eat things that you cannot eat. Just like, your chicken can eat whole wheat berries and you'll choke to death on them, right? Like, we're not the same, and we shouldn't judge our ability to process something or the dog's ability to process something on ours. Like, that doesn't make sense. We're not the same thing.
Plus, if we went to a third world country and drank the water they're drinking, it would kill us. They're accustomed to it. Yeah. The K in monkeypox is silent. I like that. Moneypox.
Moneypox. I like that. Yeah, that's good. No, you got a good point though, John, because every day when I fill up the duck tubs, the duck's first thing they do get in there is shit in it. And what does the dog do?
Yep.
Like, he literally waits, like, oh, that one's clean. I want the chocolate.
You want the poopy one. Yeah.
I say it all the time.
Water, I guarantee you'd be in a hospital by the end of the week, right? Like,
I say it all the time. When you clean your dog's water bowl out, that's for you. That's not for the dog.
No.
That dog, if you had the most nastiest water, because our dogs always have some fresh water, they never drink that.
No. You know what they do like, though? Fish tank water.
Yeah.
I have a 55 on a 255s on a double stack, and I kept going, why is the bottom tank needing water added so much more than the top tank? And I caught Charlie in there. He looked like a miniature horse slopping water out of there. I don't know if it's the bacteria and all, or if it's since it's circulating. Dogs do like circulating water. Like, if they get near a creek, man, they're going to drink the shit out of that.
Victory Garden said seasoned water.
Seasoned water, yeah. Duck seasoned.
They are water connoisseurs. How many cords of wood should you have on a homestead? As many as you need.
How many cords of wood do you go through at a time? And the wood you're cutting this year is for 2 years from now, not for this year.
Yeah, a lot. All of it.
Yeah. I don't like not having firewood, so I have enough for 2 years. And
you have to store it. You need to properly store it where you get cross ventilation of it. It'll dry it out faster, keep rain off of it.
Yep. How big is your woodshed? When it's full, you're done. And if you don't have enough, add on to your woodshed, right?
Or IBC totes are super easy, and where you can even take the cap off of one and put it back over so it sheds the water off of that, and then you can stack them. That's
a good idea. That's actually a really good idea.
I just put metal roofing on it.
Yep, you can do that too. Posts. Yep. Get all you new homestead guys, man, get you 2 shipping containers out there and elevate one and just put a single pitch, or get some trusses over that thing. Now you've got a workshop, you've got a wood shed. We took our 40-foot containers and just built little lean-tos, and that's where our firewood is, under there. I think we get 8 cords on each one.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's a lot. A cord also, you'll hear different things. Like a cord is 4 by 8 by 4. And then you'll hear face cord, which is 4 by 8. How deep is that cut, right? That guy could be cutting at 11 inches, 13, 16-inch sticks too.
It's the rick measurement that gets very confusing, because a rick, depending where you are, there are 3 or 4 in a cord, and it has to do with how deep they're cutting those.
Yeah, a rick is a face. That's face cord is a rick.
Yeah. So that took me a year to figure out in Tennessee, because it was so different than Oregon.
Different wood topic, but I got a pleasant surprise this weekend. I needed some 2x4s, and it was indoor lumber, right? Stud lumber, because it was inside. I'm building a thing for the chickens to have nesting boxes, because since they don't have nesting boxes, they refuse to lay eggs on the ground with the ducks, and they're laying eggs in the gardens and stuff like that. So I needed to build these things, and stud lumber was 2x4x8, $2.80 a piece. And as much as I like to bitch about the economy and all, like, that was a pleasant surprise. I expected to go in there and have to mortgage a kidney to buy 6 2x4s.
So Economic Ninja is a YouTube channel I watch occasionally, and he said that the price of lumber in the box stores is plummeting because builds are slowing down. And he said that it's plummeting so much so they're having to lower the prices on it, that you're going to see sawmills go out, so it'll drive the prices back up. You're going to see a lot of the smaller sawmills go out of business.
Of course.
That's always a signifier, is the cost of dimensional lumber for a lot of things.
I think the spirit animal of our economy right now is the antlion.
The antlion.
The antlion. The antlion, for people that know, is this little, we call them doodle bugs. They live in the bottom of a hole. They eventually turn into a fly that kind of looks like a Dobson fly, but they live when they're larvae, they live in the bottom of this hole, and they make it looks like the pit from Star Wars that they were going to throw Han Solo and all in. And an ant goes down in there, and as he's trying to get out and just about to get over, the antlion spits dirt and knocks it back down. And that's the economy. Every time you think there's good news, every time something goes down in price, every time you get ahead somewhere, some other shit caves in back on you. That is the economic spirit animal of the global economy right now, is the antlion.
Builder of castles. I say shipping, you can do whatever you want, man. I like the shipping containers because they're about $2,500 a piece right now. You're typically coming fresh onto a property that has no fencing or gates, and you can somewhat secure some things. I'm never going to have shipping containers and wish I didn't have them. They were always full, and I'm always adding more. I can heat that up and use that as a kiln to dry out wood. I can use that as dry storage. I can stay in there if I need to, and it just gives me a space. And the other thing too on a fresh homestead is, wherever you put your thing, in a year, you're going to wish it wasn't there. So if it's permanently stick mounted or slab mounted, whereas the shipping containers, I can pull them around with a skid steer and place them right where I need. I can also go vertical with them if I want to and raise my head height.
Yeah, and the other side of it is, if I'm going to build a shed, I have to build it. So I have to buy the material, then I have to build it, then I have to maintain it. Right?
Cost per hour.
All I have to do to get a shipping container is pick my phone up and make a phone call. And when the guy comes, I say, sit it right there. And when he puts it down, I go, no, move it over a few feet. Okay, good. right? So there's a convenience. And then you have this thing that, like, how long is that shipping container going to last, John?
Forever, almost.
You'll be dead, so you won't care.
Yeah, especially if you maintain the roof on it.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for making a root cellar? I want to make one so I can store potatoes all winter. I can buy a 50-pound bag for $18 right now at the fruit and farm, and I want to store them for winter. The variety of potato that you're going to store matters.
Pumpkins too. Yeah, all your hard veggies. Depends where you are. You can buy a prefab root cellar called a storm shelter and put that right in the ground, fiberglass or concrete. They just bring them out in a single piece or a two piece, put them right in. Access also, Modern Day Civilian, great little YouTube channel, mostly shorts. He did a great thing on doing a root cellar. He used an 8-foot culvert and then 8-foot wire spool caps, which turn out to be 8.5 feet on the rounds. And he just trenched right into a hill, put this in there, filled it in with gravel, put it on an angle so that any water coming in would weep. And at 8 feet, he ran gravel in the bottom to kind of level it out and put some shelving. And it was awesome. But again, it's going to depend on where you are, how you're going to do your root cellar. And then how much access do you want? Are you hoping to access it from like a basement in the house? Or do you mind walking outside when the snow's on the ground? It all depends.
And how many pounds of potatoes are you going to store? Because are you building a whole root cellar for 50-pound bag?
Yeah, and it's probably a lot cheaper to buy some extra potatoes than to build a root cellar. But I mean, if you just want the root cellar because you're going to utilize it all the time, or we might need it in the future if fridge goes out, or it serves double as a storm shelter also.
So if you want to store potatoes and you don't have a root cellar right now, get the potatoes and learn how to store them. Don't get the red skin potatoes. They do not store as long. Your russets will store longer, especially if they're cured properly. And have them in a container that allows some breathing. You're going to want to have a schedule of looking through the potatoes about once a week to see if anybody's starting to go bad. And then the key there is to have them in a dark, cool place, not by your onions or your apples. So when you do that, like for me, I put them under my bed in October because it's still kind of warm outside. And then I put them in what I have is the equivalent of a basement space. So I put them in this daylight basement space that stays, closer to 40 degrees through the winter. And they last into February. They start getting they start growing legs, basically. The eyes start growing. And that just means it's time to prepare them for planting again because we plant potatoes in Tennessee about the first week of March.
That's called that's chitting, right? That's where we're going to cut it, and then it scars up, becomes another piece that becomes a root stock for potato.
Yeah. So if that's what you mean by storing for the winter, that can be done with or without a root cellar, depending on how much you have. But when it comes to making a root cellar, it's very contingent on what your land will support and what your budget is, because you can dig a big hole under your house too. That's what they used to do.
So the cheapest prefab root cellar storm shelter I've ever seen is, you drive around the country, sometimes you see this guy with this big ass boat that's rotted and it's like just shitty, and it's like a fiberglass hole, and it has like a small cabin cruiser or something. It's just gone to shit. They'll usually give it to you. And I know a dude that has 3 of them buried on his property. And he just took his backhoe and he made it like an air vent, like a chimney basically, that comes up out of the ground from the front side of the boat so you get airflow. And he's buried 3 of them. And he's got 2 for storage and 1 is a storm shelter that he stores stuff in, but he only stores so that the family can fit in there. So you're not like, here comes the tornado, get this shit out of here. And I said, what'd you pay? He said, I bought one for $150 and the other 2 were given to me.
You can buy a school bus for about $2,500. You can buy a running school bus for between $3,000 and $5,000. Now you don't want to maybe bury that whole motor and the oil and all the fluids in the ground, but Didn't
the Davidians do that? Didn't they have a buried school bus?
Several of them. Yep.
I mean, people bury chest freezers that are broken.
That's another thing. You could just bury a chest. You can find non-running chest freezers all the time. Hell, I have one. I'll give you even. But you could take those things and just bury them. That's a good idea.
Go to Craigslist and put out that you want non-running chest freezers. Right? Just talk to the guy first, because you might get somebody like me that had one go bad. while we were on vacation, and we had like this meat that had done what meat does for 2 weeks without freezing. And we literally, like, we had 1 day a week or 1 day a month. It was for taking junk away because we were in the suburbs back then. And we just duct taped it shut and stuck it out there. Like, you don't want that one. Trust me.
Yeah.
Somebody said they've priced out framing lumber and it's 40% less this year than it was last year. I heard last night Walmart has lowered the prices on 18,000 items, and they're pressing manufacturers to not up prices, which means you'll have people stop doing business with Walmart and they'll go to other places. But people are just out of money. Your normal, your high-end customers are now Walmart shoppers. Your luxury customers, everybody has downgraded, downward class migration for most people.
Yeah.
So how do you know that potatoes are cured right? If they're not, you can still cure them. It is great, and somebody brought this point up in the comments. If you get unwashed potatoes with the dirt still on them, they last better. But the way you cure potatoes is by letting them basically develop a rind on the outside by drying out, which is why you want. Same with winter squash, right? You want them to have some time with airflow, and then once they have that hard outer skin, they last longer inside.
Same with garlic and onions.
And if you wash them, then you're undermining your chance. It's the same with garlic. You don't wash garlic, you just cure it. If you need to wash it before you use it.
We used to put potatoes, garlic, and onions on like these, I don't even know where they were from, these huge rusty ass grates that probably my grandfather found in a junkyard on like a couple cinder blocks. So they had airflow under them. They would sit there and then we'd bag them up and hang them down in the cellar. So yeah.
Yeah, you got to cure them before you put them in the cellar.
Yeah, are you using sand or dirt in the bin when you're storing them under your bed? I don't use anything. I just put potatoes in a cardboard box with holes in the side.
Biochar though. Anything.
Oh, that'd be great.
What you do is just, and it doesn't need to be much, like a 1-inch layer. They don't have to be buried in it, just in the bottom. And all of the off-gassing, it will absorb it, and it will, like ethylene gas and things like that, will have less of an effect, and it'll extend storage life. And then
you're telling me in October I need to have a campfire so I can store my potatoes?
Yeah. And then at the spring will be time for planting, so then you have all this nicely charged up biochar to add to your compost and put in your garden.
Yeah, the biggest problem with storing potatoes is when one goes bad and you don't notice.
Yeah. You want to smell
Same with
that.
apples.
Yeah, you want to be able to smell
potato,
it.
like one bad apple.
What's that smell? My favorite Homesteader game.
Yeah.
Rotten potatoes, way worse than apple, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Somebody said
apples are supposed to be the one that, like, if you store those on biochar, they're supposed to last like 9 months or something.
Somebody said that soon Walmart will want you to help unload the trucks. I keep hearing, and I've heard this over and over dozens of times, that Walmart is going away from the self-checkout. You're going to actually have a subscription now to use self-checkout because of the amount of theft that they're losing.
I still say we're going to get to where there's going to be no checkout.
Well, Sam's Club,
like you throw it in the cart, it
yeah,
adds up, and you're going to have a preloaded credit card. And when you walk out, it's going to like charge and approve. And if you try to run away, like some dude's going to run out and beat your ass. Like that's what's going to happen.
Well, so Whole Foods has had those locations like that for years now, where you interact with nobody in the store. Sam's Club, we scan things as we put them in the basket at Sam's Club now, and they have sensors that you walk through. They don't even look at a receipt anymore. We don't. Yeah. I don't think we don't even get a receipt anymore. It's just on the phone.
Yeah, that depends on the Sam's Club, but I was at Costco last week, and they're still old school.
Yeah. So Costco has a self-checkout lane, and when you go to it, they've got some badass employees that are like, "Would you like us to do this for you?" And they're faster than the normal checkers are. You get through the self-checkout with the employee scanning all your stuff.
Yeah.
Even quicker. I know people are like, "I didn't pay to do this job," but boy, I would always rather use self-checkout than Martha. Well, I got to stand and, next to a bunch of other people who are splitting up their payments and using their welfare shit. Man, it's always faster for me to self-check out than deal with one of the employees. How you doing today? I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm on the right side of the grass line.
When it started, I didn't like it because there were so many like item not in checking area, all this bullshit, and like that seems to be gone. And so now, like, I'm straight to self-checkout. except if I have alcohol, because then I still have to deal with somebody coming over to check my ID. I think they need a new button, like at Albertsons. They're always like, well, what is your birth year? And they don't check ID on a dude that's got gray hair and a gray beard. They just like whatever I say, put in. I just make up numbers, 69, 72, 75, whatever. I'm like, you guys need a button that just says old. Like there's a certain point you look at somebody and you just hit the old button and it just makes up a year that's old enough. Like it doesn't really matter anymore.
Costco had a scan as you go app, but it never worked for us. So I'm guessing they just bailed that. I don't know. And people are saying that that Amazon store stopped all of that checkout too. I was never in one.
Yeah, I like at Sam's Club that you can take the wand and go to your cart and just go boop, 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 and never take it out of your cart.
Yeah.
They don't weigh it, but they do look on the way out to make sure.
I think one thing people are misunderstanding, though, is they think that this technology has to be so perfect that there's no theft. There's always theft in retail. It's factored in. As soon as they can get the theft lower than using checkout, they don't care that there's theft. They care that there's less theft because they're always going to have some theft. I think another thing that's going to happen, though, kind of along the social credit score line, I think it's going to come from the corporate side in America versus the government side. Like they're going to have this thing like you're going to have, like you said, an account or something, Nicole, to go to Walmart. You're going to have a subscription. I think all the stores will eventually do that. And if you get caught stealing, they're going to ban you from that store forever. Like imagine like you go in, you stole like 50 cents worth of candy from Walmart and they just like hit a button. No more Walmart for you. And you can't buy online either. You have to go to Kroger. And imagine once those people start sharing.
Yeah, when they federate, then you're not just banned from Walmart. You're banned from everybody they federate with, which is kind of how your Telegram groups work, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're banned from Jack's Telegram group, you're also banned from mine. It just happens.
And there may or may not be a common ban list for events between John and Nicole and Jack as well. Like if you get banned from events at Jack's house, maybe you're not going to one at Nicole's house. I'm just could be.
Maybe.
Yeah, Kevin Timmer said our Sam's Club has cameras you have to walk through. Same. That's what ours is. You check, you do your self checkout thing, you hit pay, you walk between the point of the exit, and everybody's up in arms. People are like, "That's the mark of the beast," and on and on. They always had the cameras. They are just more. The cameras have always been there.
You just didn't know it, right? I mean, that's yeah.
And now they show you yourself at self checkout. So you have a good view right up your nose.
Yeah, it's been that way for years. At Home Depot does that too. And that's just the camera you see. There's cameras everywhere in all of those tilt-up stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. There's always inventory shrink. Most of it goes out the back door.
Well, that's true, right? That's their biggest. It's not customers that are the biggest thieves. It's employees that are the biggest thieves.
Yeah.
And sometimes in large numbers. I remember some dude got busted over like 5 years. He stole like $9 million of feed from Purina. He had a whole side hustle going on where like they were grifting little bits over the years of every batch that came in. And he got away with it until he did. It was something like 5 or 6 years, $9 million.
Wow.
Now, he made like, and his partners and all made like 3 because it was like $9 million value to Purina. But they weren't getting dollar for dollar. They were getting maybe a third of that.
Dollar General's given up on self-checkout. Well, I mean, that's their market. Who's their clientele? That's the caliber of the customer. Dollar General has I don't have a car. I'm going to walk to the store, and that is my grocery store, in fact. And, whatever. I mean, live how you want to live. But if you look at the amount of theft comes from those areas and those neighborhoods versus, there might be a much higher dollar theft in a more organized crime or white collar type crime or nicer area, but the sheer volume, it's like gun violence. If you remove gun violence from just 3 cities in the United States, it would downgrade the United States from gun violence from number 3 in the world. I think we're number 3 in the world using those stats to under 200 by just removing 3 cities out of the United States. Yeah. That's just the facts.
Let me think. Is it Chicago, New Orleans, and St. Louis?
And Los Angeles was one of them in there too. Those are the 3 though.
Okay.
Yep. And I mean, there's something in common there. It's. I mean, when you say gun violence Chicago, who's shooting each other every weekend in Chicago.
Yep.
I think Dollar General is going to be early on the bandwagon to stop taking cash too. Based on they get militant when I pay cash when I'm at one.
You're
paying with cash. I'm like, oh great.
That's because they can't. That's because they can't count change.
There are people that live in areas that when one of those stores close, they're screwed. That was their grocery store, and not all people that live that way are bad people or stealing.
Correct. That's
and it sucks.
Dollar General can catch the walk-in customer who has no car and the guy on the way home who's just going to stop and buy one or two things on the way home as well.
Yeah,
we've got 4 of them, I think, within 10 minutes of here right now. When you back up 5 years, we had none. Well, no, I guess we did have one. I had never been in a Dollar General until maybe 2 years ago.
We have one like 2.5 miles from my house that I don't know how they stay in business, because when I drive by, there's never anybody there, but it may be mostly walk-ins because there's like a trailer park like half a mile north of there, and that's probably where they're getting most of their business. People have to walk there. Yeah,
food deserts. That was all part of redlining too. They removed the exits from the interstates. They rerouted all the bus routes. That's that whole thing, man. And if you look in those areas, those shopkeepers are not the indigenous people. It's mostly most of them were like Asian people who had those shops in those hood rat areas. And then all that money goes out to their families. Most of them don't live there, but they are shopkeepers in the area.
I'd say 8 out of 10 liquor stores around here are owned and run by people from the Middle East.
Indians, yeah, that's how it is here.
No, Middle East here. It's like Afghanistan. It's like Iraq, Syria, like all like Mideast proper immigrants, and a lot of them like. You're wondering, like, okay, well, they're Arabic. That doesn't mean they're Muslim. Well, they're Muslim, and they don't drink, but they don't care about selling it to you at all.
Nope,
like, it's just it's the drug dealer that knows not to get high on his own supply, right? Like, yeah.
Interlochen, Florida is so poor that the Dollar General and Dollar Tree are combined. That's like the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
Are they all across the street from a Waffle House, too?
Yeah. Man, they were talking in my community that a Waffle House was going to go on, which is complete fiction. And it's a Burger King. And there was a big debate on if we were big enough to support a Waffle House. And the answer is no. No, we are not.
A Waffle House. But you're big enough for a Burger King?
Yeah, we have all the fast food. We have Arby's, Burger King, 2 Subways. There's the good Subway and the bad Subway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A double Whopper with cheese is $10.
What? I don't know how anybody does that. I don't know how anybody does it.
I every 6 months or so we'll go to something fast food, and I didn't want whatever, so I went across the street and got a double Whopper with cheese. It was $10. One burger, no fried, nothing else, just the cheeseburger with bacon. Double Whopper cheese, bacon. They're 2 little minuscule pieces of bacon. $10.
So Morton's, the people that do the meat by mail, they make these pre-cooked sirloin burgers. Costco sells them for $11.99 for a package of a dozen, and they're third pound.
Yeah.
So a double burger with that is 2/3 of a pound, and that would be $2 for the burger part. How somebody then goes to Burger King and spends that much money on it, I know you did it on a one-off, but on a regular basis, and then bitches about money. That's the. Have you noticed that like now everybody's going out and buying shit just so they can take a picture of the receipt? Like if you didn't want to spend that $29 on Five Guys, why the fuck did you go there? Just so you could make an Instagram fucking video?
But I mean, for a lot of people, that's the destination, right? That is the meetup, the hangout, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of time in our lives that we could utilize to do other things or make more money with. But I mean, we would go to Starbucks 3 times a day. When we left California, and we actually mathed it out, between Amanda and I going to Starbucks after we took the kids to school, picking and then going there around lunch, and then taking all the kids there to get the 1,000-calorie milkshake, and then going in the evening, like we were $1,200 in Starbucks a month.
Wow.
Never even added it up. And I mean,
thought I had a bad habit.
And it wasn't.
Go ahead.
It wasn't even good. We just did it as a, hey, let's leave here and go there.
What's Pals? Somebody's asked me if I've ever eaten at Pals, and the answer is no, because I don't eat at fast food places unless it would have to be a dire emergency. So, I don't know. Yeah.
I used to stop on my way to the office every morning and get a latte. They were like, back then, they were like $2.50 at Starbucks for a latte, just a plain latte.
Yeah, no,
and I thought that was bad.
Yeah, $10, man.
I thought that was bad. And I did that. Just what you're saying, though, John. It was like part of my ritual in the morning because I was doing my podcast by then in the car, and I had to kind of switch my brain over. And so I'd go into the Starbucks, and they had a good staff at this one, and I would chat with them for a minute or two, and like it gave me a pause before I walked into the office. And so I was doing that as much for the experience as the product, because we had a really great coffee room at the office. But I was dropping $250 a day, so $1,250 a week, and I felt bad about that. You were dropping $1,200 a month.
Yeah, insane, right? Yeah, and I never even put it together until we had left, because I was saying, we don't have a Starbucks here. We're going to save a lot of money here in the town that we moved to.
Pals is apparently a chain in Tennessee that I've never come across because I don't usually eat at places like that.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either.
Bigger question is Burger King still serving the fake meat burgers? That's a thing where they tried to do the Incredible Burger or whatever. It didn't seem to go very well.
No.
Well, I think that they are still doing it. I think the Incredible Burger's there, and I would suspect, and I don't know, I don't work fast food, but I would suspect that when those things don't sell, those get pushed out to normal customers.
Yeah, just another reason not to eat the burgers at the fast food places. When did TSP 24 tickets go on sale?
September 21st, which is a Saturday at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Oh,
no. Damn it.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Damn it.
It's like you always do 9.
9 a.m. Saturday, September 21st. And you really need to be on our Telegram channel or group, because what I do is I drop the link in there, and then I give it like 5 minutes before I put it out on the site. And usually it doesn't go on the site. Last year we sold out in, I believe, less than 3 minutes. So that is the time, 9 a.m. September 21st. If you're up at 8 a.m., you'll be there.
Refresh.
And a reminder for anybody listening to that has any kind of side deal with me, like for a guaranteed seat or something like that from a barter blanket or whatever, you need to remind me now. Don't wait until after I've sold the tickets, because then that's the deal I made with you when we made the deal, right? Like,
Jack, what's your Telegram group?
Oh my God. Go to the survivalpodcast.com and click on Get Social.
It's like they don't listen to your show at all.
The survivalpodcast.com, Get Social, and you will find all the ways to connect. Group is everybody going at everybody, right? Like the big discussion. The channel is just my stuff. You'll get like 3 or 4 a day if you just do the channel. So it's up to you, but either will work, the group and the channel, because everything I post to the channel goes to the group. And then there's a special group, but you won't know about that special group unless you ever come to an event.
That is true. That group gets going right before those tickets go on sale too.
Nor shall you know what the squirrel is.
Nope. Nor shall you talk to the squirrel.
You will not talk to the squirrel, nor know what that means.
Yes.
You're not in the cool kids club without the squirrel.
Not at all. Okay, what do you think about the civilians stopping shoplifting to prevent stores from closing down?
It depends. Where are you? If you're in California, you might get arrested for stopping a shoplifter. If you're in Tennessee or Texas, you probably get pat on the back.
Yeah.
So, know how your law enforcement will respond to you tackling a dude in the Home Depot parking lot because he's running out with 7 DeWalt tools. You know, and I hate to say it, but I really think in a lot of jurisdictions in California, they will come arrest you for assault and write them a ticket for a misdemeanor theft.
Yeah, New
And
York.
that's not good. We're here. I'm telling you right now, like if you did that here in Tarrant County Sheriff's Department's going to show up and go, man, you looking for a job, boy? Because if you're looking for a job, we could use somebody like you. So where are you, right? I think it's a good thing ethically. I don't think it's necessarily a smart thing everywhere. And then who are you doing it with? How many of them are there? What is it over? Is it worth it? Because like I know a friend of my son's, his dad was a member of the Texas State Guard, former Marine, just a stand-up guy, always do the right thing. And he was at a gas station, and there was a bunch of punk-ass kids in there. When I say kids, I mean like 18, 19, like young men. And they were shoplifting the hell out of stuff, and he basically put a stop to it, told the clerk, cleared him out. He walked outside. He almost ended up beat to death because there was like 9 of them, and he was not armed. And so was it worth that over soda pop and bubble gum? And, you know, I'm all for doing the right thing. I'm also for doing the smart thing, and you have to balance those.
Yep.
What if
Nicole,
you end up in a wheelchair the rest of your life over that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you willing to?
And who's feeding your kids, you know?
That's actually why I'm glad that Sonny's doing that art of de-escalation class, because you always win the fight you don't have.
I tell all my kids and young employees all the time, I go, you might be right, 100% right in what you're about to do, but what do you stand to gain and what do you stand to lose? And you almost always stand to lose much more than you stand to gain. And oftentimes you don't stand to gain anything.
Yeah.
And you don't know when that, like you have your blinker on and you're waiting for that parking spot and some dipshit whips in there, you jump out, you know, because you're angry or whatever, and being a badass. You don't know if that guy's willing to kill you over that parking spot or maim you for the rest of your life. If you like, there's more parking spots.
Like,
yeah, you also don't know if they have a kid at home who needs an emergency medication that they are running in to get. So there may be a reason that they're being a jerk that's not even to be a jerk.
That's a great point. I can't remember the book I read, but I remember one of these books by like kind of the business motivational guys. He was talking about that kind of perspective, Nicole, and he was saying how there was this one time he was on a subway in New York, and there was like this dude with 3 kids, and the 3 kids are like climbing on everything like monkey bars and shit, and the guy's just sitting there doing nothing. And he finally like blows, and he says something to the guy, and the guy just looks around like he didn't even know what was happening, and goes, "Man, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. We just came from the hospital, and their mom died." So yeah, like it's both sides. Is what John's saying and Nicole's saying. But like on John's side, you don't know if that dude was already mentally unstable, lost his job and got divorce papers that day. He's ready to kill himself anyway. And now you're there and you present an opportunity for him to let out rage and do suicide by cop. You have to be really careful. Like, I know it's hard to look at, but like some of these things, like remember that dude that shot the husband and wife in Pennsylvania over like snow or something like that?
Yeah.
They were screaming at each other. He goes in the house, gets a handgun, comes out and shoots both of them. They're both laying on the ground, and the woman's screaming, "You shot me, motherfucker! You shot me!" Like she's still engaging in the conflict while she can't get up. He went back inside, got an AR, came out and finished both of them. Yep. Now he's obviously wrong, but it doesn't help the 2 people who are dead or their families. And like, I'm glad you have Sonny doing that because the Russians are really good at the de-escalation and the concept of what's known as sufficient force versus excessive force. Like their entire thing is like, when I talked to Valery Azanov about like his past, because he was part of the Russian Olympic team for judo, he said the reason we were so dominant back in the Soviet days is we trained to survive versus win. So in a combat sport like judo, if you stay in the match long enough, you frustrate your opponent until they make a mistake, and then you'll get the opportunity to win. Where the American mindset was finish the fight as quickly as you can. Well, if you're going against somebody that's playing that other side of it, that's just looking to survive the conflict long enough, sooner or later, you are likely to make that mistake. And they're really good at the psychology of it. And Sonny's a good dude.
Well, I mean, it's just the system is so fucked now. How many times, like the guy in the subway in New York, right? Held that guy down, subdued him. And then that guy is the dude who's in jail still. Like that, it just keeps happening. It is the system is weaponized. They don't stop the criminals, but they will stop you for stopping the criminal.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm back to, if you live somewhere like that, get out. Please get out. Just don't. There's no reason. You left California, John. Is your life not better for that?
Always. And you don't realize how bad it is until you're out of California and you go back several years later. Like you don't fathom it.
What would you say? We have a large portion of all three of our audiences that I think have this mindset, John, where when you tell somebody that and they say, no, man, you should stay and fight for your home and fix it. How do you answer that? Because you actually left.
I just tell them, you're right. You're right. You do that. Like, I don't need to change people's minds anymore.
Yeah.
Imagine how much energy we spend trying to change somebody's mind who we don't even know. Meanwhile, we have people who have come to join us or are part of what we're doing. I say war within arm's reach, right? I have a lot of people who I can affect and change the course of their life who are here with us. I don't need to try to recruit people to do something that's not going to benefit me anyways. If they don't know, okay. When they come and ask, I'll give them everything I have, but I don't need to try to, convince them.
Yeah. And have you ever noticed the people that say that they never live in a place like that?
Yeah, they also never do anything.
They're like in Kansas or some shit, and they're telling some guy he should stay in San Francisco.
Yeah, but the guy saying that's not going to do anything anyway.
Oh, they never do shit.
Those guys are the same ones who are willing for me to go to jail by pushing back on something, but they're not willing to go to jail.
It's all the I can't afford it, guys. I can't afford this. Well, you have time to be on the internet right now. Yeah. You have time for another job.
Yeah. Why aren't you out dog sitting or delivering food or something with your time if you can't afford it?
People get so angry when I say that. I did work 3 jobs till I was 35 years old. I still somewhat work 3 jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you add up the hours, I mean, I work more than most dudes who work 2 full-time jobs. I
would say you have a media company in addition to making the gear you make, right? So and then your homestead. Correct. After 35 years, I'm able to do things a little bit differently than most people are. But it's that, I mean, I didn't have a house for a long, I still don't have a house. I live in the shop. Like I still don't have another location that we go to. Those are just choices. I'm able to do this because I don't do what other people do.
Well, you're able to do this because you didn't do what other people spend most of their life doing.
And still don't.
And still don't. Like, I have recently introduced, finally, successfully, Fuck Off Fridays. I take a 3-day weekend every week.
Yep.
I guarantee you by the time I'm like, let's say 70, and someone that's about my age is also 70, I still have more hours worked in my life than they will have at that point.
Yeah, it must be nice.
So when you want to work hard, you should want to work hard when you're 20 and you're 30. Right? Because that's when you have the energy and the ability to just work nonstop. And when I tell people that, I get shit like, oh, right, just never see your friends, never have any fun. And like, okay, so never bitch to me again about your problems because I gave you a solution and you didn't want it. Right? Like, I worked my ass off. I still went out like to clubs and stuff at night and what have you when I could. There were also times when I was working like 7 at night to 7 in the morning. And would go like 20 days without a day off, but I was making big ass overtime during that time and it was worth doing. And I was also like, at that time I was contracting for MCI. So I was learning while I was working. So I was getting paid overtime to be trained on things like, asynchronous DAC systems and stuff like that. And I looked at it like the dumbasses that I went to school with that managed to get into college are paying, back then probably 10 grand a year to go to school. And I'm getting paid, $8 grand a month to learn. Like, and like, that's the mindset difference. And if you want to go to college, I'm always have to clarify that. I'm not putting it down, but you better know why you're going. Because most of these people going to college, they don't know fucking shit. They don't know anything. And
there's a big picture. If you look at the numbers, when you leave an area that's not doing well or that you shouldn't stay in and go to an area that's more free and has lower taxes, you may find that you have more money. I can't afford it. I got a $4,000 raise as an employee when I moved to Tennessee from Oregon because I kept money in my pocket that Oregon did not steal from me anymore. That's a lot of, I don't have to work extra hours for that money. That makes a big difference.
Somebody pointed out in a local Facebook group that Tennessee minimum wage is $7.50 an hour and people literally lost their shit. They're like, you can't live off that. Yeah, you're not supposed to. Those are kids' jobs. McDonald's is not a job where you pay a mortgage. As a child, if you want to make that kind of money until you have that resume or, you know, whatever, you're going to work 3 part-time jobs. Like, it's doable, especially when you're young. That's just what you do. And if you stop and think about those guys that are like, what, you're just not going to see your friends? Wait till you're 30, because those dudes that are doing that shit, if they're still doing that shit, they don't have anything to show. Like, once you get a wife, you are not going to the bar with your friends anymore. If you do, you're not going to have that relationship very long. And if she's doing that with you, you guys probably don't have a whole lot to show. Like, as a grown-ass individual, you do whatever you want. But if you look at the mainstay of successful people, 90% of them are not doing that bullshit.
And make time for the things that are really important to you.
That's kids bullshit.
You know, where I grew up,
is it important to be at the bar, or is it important to have a good relationship with your kids?
Where I grew up, there was a bar on every corner, little coal miner bars and stuff like that. And most men did go to the bar. It was like a club, even though it wasn't a club, like to talk, to be social. You know when they went to the bar? On the way home from work. Yeah. And they were there for maybe an hour. They certainly weren't in there hanging out, dancing, picking up chicks and stuff like that. Like, it was like the dude that worked at the coal mine, or the dude that was a truck driver on the way home would stop at like Lazar Chicks or Fifth Street or something, go in, have 1 or 2 beers, talk to his buddies, and go home. And I remember, like, my grandfather would go at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon because he was retired. Same thing, though, like an hour and out. And I think it was like what I said about changing your mindset. So they were coming home from work, some job that they fucking hated. Like, they're out there busting coal or some shit all day. Their boss is on their ass. And that brief stop was like this psychological reset. They talked about fishing, hunting, what Billy's doing, whatever. And then when they went home, they could actually be dad instead of coming in the door just ready to, like, I did that with my garden. I would go right through the house back when I had a career. I would go right through the house to the garden, and my wife wouldn't even talk to me for 30 minutes. I'd have a beer, water the garden. I'd go back in. I could be human Jack again because I had been asshole Jack all day long on everybody's ass. I was the boss, right? And so I needed that transition in my mind. I think that's what those guys were doing. But when you brought that up, what it made me think of is how much later in life people get married now. And I think that might be part of the problem. Like, because when you get married, that goes away. That whole, I'm going to go out and party, like, that's done. Like, if you want to stay married anyway.
Well, people aren't getting married anymore.
Yeah, that's true too. And the ones that aren't having kids.
Yeah, they're not having kids. They're not getting married.
Do you know they have a name for it and an acronym? Married couples with no kids. You know what they call them? Yeah. DINKs. DINKS. Double income, no kids. And there's a lot of them now that are like in their 40s, and the women are insisting that their life is great and they're happy. Right? They're out and they're mad about the fact that you don't believe they're happy. And I sit back and I look at that and go, people that are happy don't get that fired up about convincing you that they're happy.
Yeah, we just choose all these career paths. Like, I heard somebody the other day, I don't remember, somebody I knew said that their girlfriend was going to school to be a teacher for special needs. And I thought, that's awesome. Somebody needs to do that. I definitely wouldn't do that. But you have literally capped yourself. You are never going to make more than this finite amount. You're going into a career field that's never going to expand into anything else. When you decide, hey, I want to completely change my life, you now have nothing in your work history other than that. So daycare teacher, whatever. And I know there's people who are like, man, this guy's a real asshole saying that, but I wouldn't want my child choosing that career path, because they have literally capped what anything they can ever do beyond that.
Why do you think people make that choice? I always felt like it's some sort of...
I think they want the attaboy. I think they want the attaboy. I think they think that it's noble and it's going to get them a lot of praise in their immediate circles. I think that's really what it is.
I think it's partly that. I also think it's like we've created this idea that if you make a lot of money, you must be bad.
And you have
to purposely choose something that makes me not bad. And
you're better off by being miserable. Also, if you're around a bunch of people that are, damaged, there's nobody that you are, oversee that is beyond you.
And I also hear that a lot of times for people in that choice, I want to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess they are. I mean, like you said, we do need somebody to do it.
Some people have a sibling or somebody who had a disability too, and so they want to keep going that direction. There's different motivators for that.
Well, I just
do
saw
know a lot of. Go ahead.
It made me think of it. Somebody in here said I went from being a math teacher to a computer programmer, went from 27,000 to 65,000 a year. Yeah, that's a big difference. You pick these career paths, and I mean, I just don't get it. Like they say, those who can't teach.
There's also like something I've seen going on lately that I would have always thought it would be the other way around, and it might just be because they get paid better and they do less. They deal with less kids. More and more public school teachers are trying to get the job as the special ed teacher in the school. Why? Because they deal with the kids a lot of times one-on-one or in small groups, and they get a bump in pay. They actually make more than the person that teaches, like, U.S. history 1867 to present or whatever, especially if you want to stay in the grade school range. Because like one way you can make more money as a school teacher, at least I haven't looked across the country, but in Texas, a high school teacher is paid better than a middle school or elementary teacher. And so but a lot of people, like especially females, do not want to teach in high school because now you have all the gang activity in high school and shit like that. And you have these kids that are 17 years old and they weigh 250 pounds, right? So they don't want to go to that level. They want younger, easier to control, and they want more money. And they seem like maybe that's why because like my sister-in-law is a teacher. That's what she's done is moved into special ed. And my grandkids' other grandparents are both teachers, and my grandmother-in-law, whatever the hell you would call it, is trying to move into special ed.
I loved teaching high school students. I did not love the high school bureaucracy because they're mature enough to be reasonable, even though they aren't always reasonable. Why are you burning that boat, Jack?
Ask John. It's his shirt. Tell him what it is, John. I'll model for you.
Yeah.
Well, Burn the Boats came from Tony Robbins. Cortez. They had tried to take Cortez's gold, or they had tried to take the Aztecs' gold over and over. Every time they would come on the islands, they always got pushed back and retreated, whereas Cortez said, we're going to burn. And if we leave, it's because we've gone through them and taken their boats on the other side of the island. But what I thought he meant when he said that, when I read that comment, was you talking about buying boats and burying them. I thought he was talking about you had a friend that had done that and you were giving up his secret hiding source.
No, it's basically there's no retreat. Like we're committed 100%. That's yeah.
Whenever you have a plan B, you're always going to fall back on that.
Plan B. Alternative plans should always involve advancement. So like that's like there's never really in the military, you never really have a plan for retreat. You retreat when all the contingencies are already blown.
And it's usually too late.
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on in Aurora, Colorado?
According to the Colorado governor, absolutely nothing. You're just being lied to.
Yeah, I've seen some on the ground guys go there, and when they're asking the Spanish speakers, they all say nothing's going on. When they talk to the English speakers, they're like, oh yeah, it's happening. Like I just watched this morning, I watched a guy who went there to that housing complex, that apartment complex, and the red door is there. There's bullet holes in the wall. He said, holy cow. He said $1,400, and this place is a shithole. And they said, yeah, they whatever that La Tregua or whatever that gang is, people said, yes, they are here. It's not a big problem. It's a shootout between them. He asked White Rasta guy out on the sidewalk, is it safe? He said, yeah, it's safe during the day, but you definitely don't want to go out at night.
See, if I'm a governor of a state and I have that shit going on, there's either like a state police TAC team, a sheriff's department TAC team, or national. Somebody's going in there and we're clearing that shit out now. Like I'm not. The problem with this, even if it's not as bad as you've been told and it's somewhere in the middle, these are like cancers. And if you see a tumor and you can remove the tumor easily, get rid of the tumor or it will spread. And I think this is our future. I think that this kind of shit will start going on everywhere. Because if they can get away with it in one place, then they can much more easily get it away with it if they're doing it 20 places at the same time. Because now even when law enforcement wants to respond, now you're spreading out resources.
And you saw that with the rioting that happened.
Yeah. Yep. This is our future. I think it's very telling of what's going to happen. Like as the wheels start to come off, more and more stuff like this is going to happen. And it doesn't help that we've let in millions of people and we don't know who they are. And some of them are bad guys, right? So when people say, well, it's only a small number, what's a small percentage? 2%? What's 2% of fucking 20 million? That's a shitload of people, right? Didn't we close down all of society because 0.09% of people might die from COVID because the law of large numbers? Doesn't that work the other way too? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Tom says, saw a follow-up from a resident that said they were told they are squatters and have squatters' rights, which is, as a landlord, can be frustrating when somebody takes over your house.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm back to you're leaving. You're leaving. Two $100 bills and a trip to the gym, and I will evict you. There are people that are just looking for an excuse to beat somebody's ass, and I'm looking for the dude with no neck that looks angry at the barbell. That's who I'm looking for. I need these two guys out of my house. Get a buddy. Here's $200. You're leaving. I promise you're leaving. And you don't know me.
Yeah, the squatters' right shit needs to end, and then now squatters have no rights except to be forcibly removed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
squatters' rights was an old thing of like you took care of a piece of land for like 20 years and it went neglected, and then you had a claim on it. That's like the origin of the whole thing, from my understanding.
Yeah, it's wild. Some of the squatters' rights stuff. They're moving into neighborhoods and taking over multi-million-dollar properties and stuff.
Yeah, and then
some of it
and spending years not being evicted from that.
There's a bunch of videos of people coming back from a week vacation, and there's people in their houses, and law enforcement will not make those people leave, even though the homeowner is back.
Yeah. There's I think some of this isn't really squatters' rights. We're calling it that. It's the eviction laws. And these people will write up their own eviction or lease agreement. And when the cop comes in, this guy's lying. I have a lease agreement with him. If he wants me out, he needs to go to court, and it takes 6 months to evict somebody. And so the cop's like, I have and the guy's going, that's not me. And, they'll even look up like your name and shit. And so you're the counterparty on this fake contract. Now, what should happen right there? That cop should be like, hand me that lease. So I'm going to take this down to the precinct. And if it's forgery, I'm going to turn it over to the FBI. You might not want to be here when they show up tomorrow. We'll see. But give me the lease. No. This is evidence now. You've claimed you have a lease. But why won't they do that? Because they don't want to do that. Like, these things are not as hard to fucking solve as they act like they are.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Because it would be forgery. Like, that's a federal fucking crime. Like, forging a contract even if it's done in the state, can be prosecuted federally.
And it is frowned upon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, question. If I can get my mouse. My mouse is not working. I need a new one of these. What say y'all about a Kel-Tec sub 2000 for a packable fallback for home defense?
Why? I mean, isn't the sub 2000 in that a 5.56 gun, or is that one that takes the Glock mags?
They come in, they'll take SIG, they'll take Glock, and I think there's one other, and you can get them in 9mm, 40, and I think they started making them in 45. I've owned two, and both of them had chronic problems with you were firing in the magazine release. And after one did it out of the box, sent it to Kel-Tec, they fixed it. It happened again. I traded it to our buddy Thad, Nicole, and apparently he managed to fix it permanently. I got another one. It had the same problem, and I'm like, I don't need in my life two totally separate guns of the same model with two totally separate magazine types. One was SIG, one was a Glock, that do this. And so I don't dislike the format. I dislike the reliability that I've experienced.
It's neat. I mean, you get a little higher velocity because of the longer barrel with the round going through there. But why not just carry the Glock that you're already carrying, since you already are using Glock mags? Why not just use the Glock that you have fired thousands of rounds through? And are you really shooting people at distance with a pistol caliber that you can't just shoot them with a pistol? Like, if you're engaging beyond that, maybe you're better off not engaging, right? Break contact rather than, I mean, what's the plan? We all have these grandiose ideas that you're going to shoot the bad guy at distance and pick up his rifle or whatever. But like reconnaissance is whether it be SEAL team reconnaissance or battalion reconnaissance or Army, scout reconnaissance. The goal is reconnaissance, not contact. While yes, you're carrying 14 mags, if you're firing, you failed the mission.
Yeah. I can see the point of it because they fold up to 16 inches, which means they will fit in a roller laptop case. So that's why I had one back when I worked in an office, because we had these office shootings and shit going on. And I'm like, if I end up in that situation at my office, I know full well I am the only motherfucker there that is going to do anything about it. And having that added stability and accuracy, I felt was worth it until the weapon didn't perform the way it was supposed to.
Look,
and Lee's asking what generation. So probably the first one was probably the first generation. It was a long before the show. I bought it. The second one, I mean, it was brand new, and I bought it 6 years ago. So whatever that would have been. You're
all grown-ups. You earned your money. I want you to have anything you want. You want to talk guns? I want you to have every single. I have a friend who's like, I don't know what you said something about Glock. I'm like, what Glock do you have? He's like, I don't know. I have all the numbers. I'm like, what? He had a truck vault pull out, had every model of Glock that they made. Mike Scully shows up. My partner on the podcast talks all kinds of trash about Glocks. He shows up with 2 5-gallon buckets of Glocks when we do videos. As you know, it's a joke. It's more for shock value.
Yeah.
But if nobody's going to show up here that my life depends on, none of my employees, nobody that I am with on a current basis or a regular basis is carrying a high point or a Kel-Tec, right? Glock is a hammer. It works every single time. AR-15 is a rifle. That's why we kill bad guys around the world with them all the time. Get your staples. You guys spend your money wherever you want. My life doesn't depend on you. I hope that your family members and people you love also doesn't depend on your poor choices.
Yeah, get out whatever you buy. Get out and train with it.
That's what I was going to say. Is it matters more that you know how to use it and you're comfortable using it and you keep practicing. I never realized that until I started doing training and trained with a gun that I didn't usually use. Realized by the end of that day, it didn't matter which gun I used.
Correct. Why that? That's one of the silliest arguments I've ever heard. Shoot them with an inexpensive firearm so when the cops take it. Do you grown-ass men not have 4 or 5 Glocks? Like everybody I know with a Glock 17 has 5 of them. Do you not? Life choices, buddy. That's I know you, but you got 1911s.
Oh, yes, I did.
That's the bullshit. I would expect that argument from a motherfucker that's got buys used tires and has 4 different tires on his car.
Yeah.
Come on, grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
$500
AR. Okay, so the thing about what Jose's saying, a $500 AR is a better gun than a Kel-Tec Sub 2K. What you're buying there is the ability to conceal a long gun. That's what the Kel-Tec is a great idea that Kel-Tec has failed to execute properly, in my opinion. And what Nicole was saying about training, had I not used those 2 carbines extensively in training and testing, my opinion might be, they're great. Because I took it out once and it worked. When you're on a firing line, you fire your 3rd shot, the fucking magazine falls out on the ground. Your opinion drops with the magazine to the ground.
Yeah, Glocks are they just had 2nd generation Glock trade-ins from correction facility at Shields, I think. Shields for $250, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Those guns have never been shot. They got maybe 50, 100 rounds through them. And Jose saying that Jose trains at TAC Response. That's 1,000 rounds. It's not a paper shooting class. It is a shoot, move, communicate class. It is not gun shooting. It's gun fighting. Those are legit. TAC Response, you go to a TAC Response class, you're going to be 1,000 rounds in a weekend. We see every gun that could possibly be seen, and we know what works and what doesn't work.
And I took a class with a gun that didn't work my first time.
You're a cop, 33 years, right on. As you know, as well as I do, cops don't train. You are a very rare individual as a police officer if you did any training. Cops do not. They just don't train, man.
Well, they have to get range time because they don't want to pay for it. So most of them don't have, you see on TV where the cops have their own range and shit. They don't have that shit, most of these departments. So they have to wait for their block of time, once or twice a year, and they have to pay for their own ammo. And so they just don't do it. They do the bare minimum to qualify. I know enough cops to know that. On the Glocks, if you want a Glock, the law enforcement trade-ins, whether correctional or cop trade-ins are the way to go. They have them gun shows here all the time, like $300 to $400, depending on what the options are. But it'll be like a hard case, the gun, multiple magazines, and like the tritium sights and all that shit. Like the most macked out you can get them, 40 Smith & Wesson, and they're dirt cheap. And most of them, you can pick them up and look at them and go, this was never fired, or it was fired, 10 rounds went through it or something.
Why, Dad? Understood. Yeah, don't use your three. Understood, man. TAC response with a 1022. My son at age 9 was the youngest to take a tactical response class fighting rifle. He did that first class with a 1022. Since then, there has been 6-year-olds to take the class. 1022, dirty gun, clean it. You can get it through there, no problem. Your mags are always going to be your shortfall in that class. Just go train, man, no matter where you train.
If you want to train with the 1022, check out what Appleseed Project does to modify their 1022s for the mag release, because that makes mag swaps way faster.
And you guys talking I know you guys are talking about that Kel-Tec because it's got a longer barrel on there. Man, there's so many different guns right now. That Raider thing but all that is putting a stock on a pistol. It doesn't really, I don't think it lengthens the barrel of that setup. And VT's got a cool carbine. The Army actually picked up that SIG 356 in that Raider chassis.
The sub 2K, I don't think people really are enamored with the longer barrel. I think the barrel's literally that length because that's how long it has to be to still be considered a rifle. It's about having kind of an SBR experience to be able to have that stability of that multiple contact point versus a handgun.
Yep.
Like I am fucking deadly with a rifle. I'm good with a pistol. There's a reason, right? There's a reason. Like the more points of contact you have, the more stability you have. And honest to God, that thing extended. If it worked like it was supposed to, it would be fantastic. It really would, because it is about the same overall length as most people's, when they go get a tax stamp and bring their AR down to a 12-inch barrel. So it has that. It just doesn't shoot where the fuck.
And you can set an AR up with a side folder, and you can set it up, a pistol with a side folder on there, which, gray area right now, but you can get a super small backpack AR-15.
Ooh, this all might be coming to a head too with the courts, man. Did you hear about the machine gun thing?
It really seems to be, yeah.
That was like, so don't go out and start buying Glock buttons or whatever yet. But this dude was prosecuted. I think one was a Glock with a button, and the other was like a full-on
I think
machine gun,
he was
like a legit machine gun.
I think he was a straight-up criminal too. I think he was not upstanding citizen.
Well, if you got a Glock button, you probably are. Like they're not very practical, right? So, but his defense wasn't. It's not mine. I didn't own it. His defense was Second Amendment, and a federal fucking judge appointed by Trump said, "You're correct. The Constitution does not give the federal government the authority to regulate a weapon because of its rate of fire." Now, that's not a done deal. That's going to now work its way through the system. But, I think suppressors, that's going to become no more tax stamps. That's why I think they're doing it used to be, it took like 6 months to get a tax stamp for a suppressor. Now it takes like a day.
Yeah, 2 days.
Yeah, 1 to 2 days and you've got it. Depends on what time in the morning you apply. If you apply at 8, you might have it before close of business. And I think they're just money grabbing because I think they put the finger up in the wind and they're like, this is all going to fall apart. The whole 86 NFA may fall apart. That would be interesting. I saw a video the other day. It was a dude shooting an Uzi, and it said, "Never forget what Reagan took from us."
Yeah, he used to be able to buy shit through the mail like that.
Yep.
Unintended Consequences. Check out that book.
I just saw you guys talk. I'm gonna see if I can find it. It's pretty cool.
He can't talk and find it at the same time.
No.
It's interesting to see freedoms return that should not have been taken away at the same time that freedoms are being taken away in other areas.
It is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. It's an ad from Kmart. Let me put this up.
Are Kmart still in business? Any of them?
I don't know.
I haven't. I don't know if who knows?
We used to be a proper country, man. You could go to Kmart, and I don't know what year this ad's from, but what's kind of telling is the pricing of other things. So a single shot shotgun was $32.88. A Marlin Model 25 bolt action, which I still own one that I got in the 80s for like $70 at that point. So this is probably from the 60s or early 70s. $34 for a Marlin Model 25 bolt action 22. But a hunting coat was $16 and a pair of nylon faced hunting pants, like the ripstop ones so that you don't get tore up by the briars, $16. So for the price of 2 pair of pants, you could buy back then at Kmart a 22 rifle, or you could buy a single shot shotgun. And you could go to Kmart. You didn't fill out a piece of paper either. You just went in and bought it.
Yeah, Sears too. Sears was this. I just bought a 1971 Sears catalog the other day in an antique store.
It doesn't even surprise me that you would do that.
Well, I was born in 71, so I had to have it. I tell kids about that, and they can't fathom that we used to get this massive catalog and thumb through it and dog ear it and make all the marks. And
that was the Christmas wish list when you were a kid, man. You look through all the toys and
all you guys, everybody that's like, how much silver should I buy? Where should I buy gold? I'm like, why are you buying that? They're like, barter. I'm like, buy bullets, man. If you want something for barter, if you buy guns and ammunition, generationally, like just even decade wise, you're never going to lose money on any of that.
Never.
And that will be your barter. 22 caliber rounds, 9mm, 5.56, just your common calibers, man.
Well, guns are built purposefully to last, unless they're Kel-Tecs, I guess. But like my point with that Marlin is, so that gun was bought for $75, $75 in the 80s. It was my trapping rifle. It will still drill a dime out at 50 yards. And it was a $70 gun. You can't even buy it anywhere. The equivalent today is like $250, $300. Like what Marlin makes, that's basically the new version of it. And I'd rather have one of the old ones than the new ones. I have no reason to believe that if I bought the new Marlin today, that I won't feel the same way in another 30 years.
I don't think the new Marlins are as good as they were.
I don't think they are either. That's what I'm saying. And you could probably go out right now and find one of those old Marlin 25s at a gun show for like $100.
Sean, then don't barter it then, man. Like, do whatever you want. Why would you, whatever, stock up all the gold and silver you want, man. We can always play devil advocate.
No, you're going to be nicer than me. Stop this stupid fucking shit, please. Okay? I've heard this so many times. I'm so tired of hearing this. If you barter a gun, it's going to be turned around and used against you. Shut the fuck up. I'm done. I can't even do that with people anymore. There's too much TV and too much internet and not enough life.
Barter with better people. I mean, I don't know. You're probably not meeting a stranger in town square that, whatever. I mean, do what you want to do.
Fuck.
Same thing with the alcohol.
Don't throw a garden either, because the fuckers will steal your tomatoes when the apocalypse hits.
I think
after 16 years, I'm at my end with people like this.
It's the same. We've convinced kids that they shouldn't own property because they have to pay property tax and they don't really own the property. We've convinced kids that they shouldn't want for anything more grand other than a tiny house.
The person that's going to shoot you with the gun you bartered already has a gun they're going to shoot you with.
I just wish people would be honest and say they don't want to.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's like every time we do Self-Reliance Festival, there's a reason you can't come. This time it's an alien invasion. But if we were closer to the election, it would totally be the election. But there is an alien invasion scheduled for that weekend.
What, the eclipse? The last one?
It was the eclipse.
The eclipse. Jesus was coming behind the sun or something. I don't know.
Humble mechanic, man. Good to see you on here. Don't buy a computer because of Y2K. We were definitely, we thought we were ready for Y2K. We had a lot of fun getting ready for Y2K. And we were doing all the gun shows and everything. And right after Y2K, there was a ton of shit on sale.
Oh, no. The internet. There he is. The extended financing put a bunch of companies out of business right after Y2K because of the ads that they were extending to everybody. But good to see you here, man. Wendy Homestead says, I live in a tiny home, so I can buy property. See, there's a reason for that choice, right?
Guys, I have tiny homes. I'm sitting in one right now. I'm just saying, we used to tell kids you can do anything you want. Now we tell them, pick some finite thing that makes this amount of money so that it will buy you this life. We grew up knowing kind of what our parents made and where we lived and how much money came in to live that lifestyle. And then that's the lifestyle we think we're going to live when we're, 20 or 30. So we just pick one of the 5-10 jobs that are available that maybe make that much money. And it's not something we want to do. It's just the one that we can tolerate the most that will make that amount of money. And by the time it's time to live that life, that amount of money doesn't buy any of that shit anymore. Whereas if we told kids find something you love to do, and let's figure out how to monetize that. I could take a 15-year-old kid and take any dude who's been working in some career for 5 years and have this 15-year-old kid in 6 months outperforming that dude and working less hours.
Yes.
Every single time.
Absolutely. And the excuses, I don't blame the young people with the excuse. I blame the system for programming them with the excuse. The house thing is a perfect example. Well, you'll never own your house. So I'll tell you what you can do then. You could be my tenant and you can make me money, build my equity, and pay my property taxes for me. Do you really think your landlord's like, well, I'm going to charge them this much for rent and I'll move a total different column for taxes because it's not fair that I pass on my property taxes to my tenant. Like the fanciful world people live in, and you know who that person is. Nicole's like, just like her face, I can see it in her face. Like that is a person that is looking for an excuse because they can't figure out how to buy a house. That person doesn't actually believe the words coming out of their mouth. They've gotten comfortable with an excuse.
Or they just don't want to, and that's okay too.
That's fine.
But don't take your bullshit and derail what I've taught my kids or my grandkids. Yeah. I want them to do more than what minimal people do. And
the only people who don't pay property tax are homeless.
Somebody said, I bought a tiny property, so I have to build a tiny home. If that's what you want, that's badass. When we moved on this 10-acre property and had this 10,000 square foot building, I said, we'll never fill it up. It's completely filled. And it's 16,000 feet now. Like what you want today will change. And what we do today will greatly limit 3 years from now on what we do. And we'll be like, well, we already have this. We'll just make it work. And you hem and haw. Before you know it, you're 50 years old.
But in their defense, John, not everybody's going to have like 5 full-size taxidermy giraffes in the house. But
they don't take up much room.
They're just tall.
They're just tall.
So you needed a tall ceiling.
We all have our things that we like, though. John likes weird shit. Like, I love going to your place just because I feel like I'm in like some kind of oddities museum or something.
I just bought an entire dental office, like all of it. I have an entire dental suite, the chair, the drill, suction, like the whole fucking thing from like 1950s, 60s, the avocado green that matches the exam tables and shit. I just bought all of that. I bought a trailer full of that old shit. I just like weird shit, and I can do that, but it doesn't keep me from doing anything else, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Like when I bought the first giraffe, the intention was to put it downstairs, cut a hole through the floor, and have the bottom of the giraffe downstairs and the head upstairs holding a big egg basket full of, hand-painted hand grenades was the plan. The building wasn't tall enough to do it. I had to put it in the middle of the building, and that was very much in the way, and that's why they ended up out in the garage bay where it's 20 foot tall.
Nicole, if I had said somebody we both know just bought an entire dental office, but not the office itself, just all the stuff in it, who is it? Wouldn't you have immediately said it's him?
I would have known exactly who it was.
You and I both, all three of us know a guy who has built a badass compound and has a full operating suite in the compound.
Not surprised.
Doesn't operate. He's got a vet tech on staff there. They do a lot of veterinary stuff. They do a lot of medical training and shit, but he has a full blown operating room. So I just thought, why not have a dental office? We can use that for a lot of other things also. And we always have enough dentists and surgeons around that should we ever need that, hopefully one is here when things happen.
That's a valid
point. When John
point.
told me that story, I knew exactly who it was.
That's a valid point because I was a mechanic. So say you're a mechanic, fix the car. Do I have tools? Do I have parts? Right? There's a lot of things you can finagle and get by and jerry rig, but in the end, you need tools and parts. And so if you have surgical equipment and things like that, then people can actually use their skills if they have the supplies to go with them.
Yep.
And look, guys, I know I've said a lot of things that kind of counter what people have typed out. And the reality is nothing you do affects me and none of my opinions affect you. I just want people listening who haven't made a decision. I want them to aim higher. If you want to make $1 million in a year, you need to shoot for 3 million because you're always going to fall short. If you shoot for 3 million or you shoot for 1 million, you're not going to make the 1 million at $1 million. And at 3 million, you're probably going to shoot past 1.5 million. That's just, I want you to have just bigger goals and just want for more. It's all doable. And I say everything I tell you, I can show you how I did it. Right. And I know guys have all these, I can't do that because this, and you could do that because of who you are or whatever. Believe me, I had more hanging over my head just 20 years ago than any of you have ever had all combined in your life.
And that is 100% true.
More than Nicole and I put together, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And it's not like our lives were exactly easy. John is an American success story, but by choice. Like, John chose to dig out and build up. And I think that, like, and you know, I jumped on the one guy because I have been doing this a long time. It's part of why I take Fridays off now, because I get like that once in a while. I've heard this same excuse making shit for so long. And my problem is I feel like I care more about people's success than they do. And it's probably true. One of my ex-business partners was way worse than me about it. I used to tell Neil, you're trying to breathe for people. You can't breathe for people. I know better than breathe for people. Like, try to drag them across the finish line. Well, you can't do that either. Like, there's just so, and I know that person that said that, I guarantee you there's 100 other excuses in their life about things that are far more practical than bartering a gun during the apocalypse. And it pisses me off because I know how much, despite all this shit that we talk about, how much opportunity there is. And it literally crushes my spirit to think, like, I dedicate my life to teaching people how to build a better life for themselves. And then they turn around and they just, like, you show up and then you make excuses. Like, if you're going to show up, then grow up and do something with it. Like, we don't do this for our own amusement when we do these group talks like this. We're doing this for you guys. We want to see you succeed. Like, my biggest paydays, I don't know about you, John or Nicole, but like, my biggest paydays is when I get an email and it says, here's this fucking business I built because you said I could 6 years ago.
Yep, that's the best. That's all.
And I never heard from that fucking person asking for help or anything. They're like, look what I've done.
Yep, always.
And then you're like, holy shit. And then you know what you're like? If there is a way I can help this person, I'm going to help this person. Because the converse is, I have this great idea. I need your help. You haven't done anything yet. I'm not going to, like, I learned that lesson a long time ago. Like, that's just a great way for me to damage my reputation with other people.
Yep. And the easiest thing to do when you are in an excuse mode is just shut up.
Yeah.
Like, literally all you have to do is just not say it out loud to somebody, even if you felt it for a second, like, because that reprogramming makes you more aware. And when you're more aware, then you can start making changes.
The other thing is, when you do speak it, you program it back into yourself. So it's a negative programming. And that's why it pisses me off. I know that the person that says these things constantly out loud is saying them more inside. And they're literally programming that 3-pound computer in their bone skull to sabotage their own life. Even if they look okay, like, their limitation they've placed on themselves is here, and their capacity is, like, beyond the frame. Like, it's so far above where they'll limit themselves to. And that sucks, because I guarantee you anybody that will tune into something like this and listen to some level of verbal abuse from me and a little bit less from the two of y'all, you have potential or you wouldn't be here. Like, you would not be here. Like, if I wanted to make as much money as I could, I'd be up on a stage like Tony Robbins having people break boards and bullshit and just raking the money in. Like, I don't want to do that because that's like false hope. That's like just like giving people this belief they can do anything. Then they go back to, you know, stuffing envelopes or whatever they do for a living. And I don't want that for people. I want people to actually do something with their lives. And man, there's so much. I used to think it was so hard. Now I'm like, I don't have enough time to do all the things I could do. Like, the worst thing I get from people is, I have this idea. I'm going to tell you about it. Oh, okay. Will you sign an NDA or some shit like that? You can't tell anybody. Shut the fuck up. I'm done. I don't even want to. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I'm going to run off and steal your idea of how to, like, put two things together that 37 other people have already tried. Like,
well, and if it's actually an original idea that's never been done, it's going to be harder to build, probably.
Yeah. You have a 90% chance that it will fail anyway. But you really have like another 90% chance it'll fail if nobody's ever done it. When you say you have no competition, that means nobody saw this opportunity but you. However, there is that 10% chance that you really did find something. Well, go do it. I mean, if you explain the idea for Twitter to somebody before it existed, like, I know what they would have said because I know what I said when I saw it. What the fuck is email for? Right? Why do I need to? Because remember, you had to wait and get an invite. I don't know if you remember that far back.
Yeah.
You had to get an invite to get on Twitter, and everybody was posting shit of like the bread they bought or something. I'm like, oh, this is stupid. So that's the other thing. Like, just don't take, like, if you ask us our opinion of your idea and we say it's stupid, we could be wrong. Like, if I was a program director for like movies and TV back in the 80s, I would have made the biggest blunder in the world, because when they presented Power Rangers to me, I would have said, get the fuck out of here. Right. And like 6 years later, I'm standing in line to meet the green Power Ranger with my son. Right. Like, so like, we don't know everything. We know we don't.
It's self-talk. It's as simple as it's just how you say things. Like, instead of saying I can't afford this thing, say how can I afford this thing? That's literally, and then you can always make the decision that I don't want to afford it, but it reprograms. It literally is that simple as a light switch.
So a year and a half ago, what thing that was out of reach for me did I really want? Does anybody know?
I'm thinking
A pool.
A pool. A year and a half later, guess what's happening?
You get in a pool.
Swim spa coming in.
That's awesome.
Because I had to ask myself every day, how can I get that?
Yeah.
And the answer is I traded something else off.
And what am I willing to not have? Right. You can have anything you want. You just can't have everything you want.
Yeah. You're going to notice my car is not as nice as it could be, but I'd rather swim.
So you mean saying I can't have it for a year and a half didn't work, and you had to actually say you could have it? Like, making excuses for not having a thing never made the thing come?
I didn't say that.
Crazy.
I said, how can I? Yeah.
Yeah. And people will say, well, like, it's not that simple. It is, but simple doesn't mean easy. Like, because you had to give something up. There's plenty of things I want, and when I do the mental math or the spreadsheet math, depending on what it is, and I look at it and I go, I don't want it that much. But I don't turn around and make some bullshit excuse of I can't, the government will take it away, somebody will kill me with it. Like, that's not why I don't do it. I do it because on the analysis, I'd rather put my time, resources, and money into this other thing that I will get more benefit from long term than this other thing. Like, I like driving a pretty car. Nicole likes swimming. We should make different choices. I mean, yeah.
Well, and never once did I say I can't afford the swim spa, even though it was a big number for me to think about, right? I just asked myself, how can I, or how do I make this work? And then the number wasn't as big when
and then you're going to make the government pay for part of it, because you're going to do an accelerated 5-year depreciation against your Airbnb business, right?
Maybe. That might be a thing. But also, I had to decide I really wanted to invest that much in it too.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't decided, like, when I knew I wanted one, like, I wanted the fun part of one, right?
Yeah.
I had to decide if the cost to fund ratio was there. But then I realized, like, I'll exercise in that basically every day. It's my favorite thing to do. Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, I want a DeLorean with an F40 Ferrari motor in it, but I'm not going to do it. Right. But I'm not going to say I can't. I'm going to say that as crazy as that sounds, it would be a cool car. DeLoreans look cool, but they're not fast. But you drop an F40 motor in it, it'll go fast and it will fit. I checked. It will work. It can be done. But I'm not going to do it because there's so many other things I'd rather have. Like, there's 100 things I can have instead of having that one thing. And those 100 things outweigh it. But this honesty, like, this is, people talk about the value of honesty. Like, an honest person, you value them. But the person people are most dishonest with is themselves. Right. And when they talk out loud, like, I can't have that, the government really owns the house, whatever, that's all they're doing is that internal dialogue. They're actually speaking it out loud. And that's, again, why I get upset, because I know that if you're doing it, it's like, when you run a business, you get like 5 letters that say you suck because this thing broke. If you got 5 letters, there's 50 people that the thing broke that didn't even bother to tell you. They just threw it away and don't do business with you. Right. And it's the same kind of ratio. Like, if you're saying something out loud once, you're probably saying it internally 50 to 100 times. And it's damaging your future success is all you're doing.
You'll speak it into existence.
Yep.
Take the Ride 23 says that switch is important. Now, there's somebody who's changed their life in a year. It was a year ago, John, that you talked to him almost. Like, it'll be a year in October. And he'll be back.
He's lost half a person.
Yeah. And he's become twice the person.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the same time.
Yep. All the craziest stuff that people talk about that I have or I've done, I didn't ever plan any of it. I just did it immediately. Like, I didn't know I could buy a giraffe. I went and found one when I saw it that night. I bought it that night, paid for that motherfucker through the internet, and they showed up with it 2 weeks later. And I'm like, holy shit, what am I going to do with this giraffe? When I went and bought any of my cars, any of the stuff that, any of that stuff, it was never planned. I just found it. I didn't even know what the Porsche Cayman S was when I bought it that night. I bought it. I went and test drove one, and I had a bag full of cash, $100 bills, and they wouldn't come down to the price I needed. I went home, found one on the internet at 1 a.m, and the dude replied to me, and I bought it that morning. I picked up a cashier's check. The bank manager opened the bank, wrote me a cashier's check or printed it, and I drove to Atlanta and bought it. None of that shit was ever planned. It's just doing it. And most of the stuff I do that people talk about, I couldn't ever afford it when I did it. I just did it and then made it work. I had to. I had no choice because I had burnt. Everything was on fire. I had to make it work out. And my biggest problem nowadays is that I'm comfortable. I'm just complacent. I don't do a bunch of crazy shit because I'm just very comfortable living the life. Like I would literally drive one of my trucks in here from going wherever, park it around the building, walk outside to look for my truck, and I'm like, shit, somebody took my truck, and I forget that I put it behind the shop 2 weeks ago. I can literally go 2 weeks and not even leave this property and never even realize that it happened. When Nicole said yesterday, she's like, hey, live with Jack today, I'm like, holy shit, has it been a month since we did a live? Like, I just have no concept of that. I'm just very, very comfortable with what I'm doing, and that's why I am lacking at a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. I just don't have to do it anymore.
Yep. But then that's a good place to be too, isn't it?
Not for
certain reasons.
When you see me moving and doing a bunch of shit, that's because I just did something I probably should not have done.
Yeah, but you're also a person who you operate at a high level of performance under the highest stress you have.
That's the only time. Yeah, things have to be on fire, and that's when I'm definitely at my best for sure.
Yeah. You can use that when you know that about yourself.
I promise not to yell at anybody at the workshop.
You do?
I do. Well, I promise not to yell at anybody as a student, as long as they don't do anything really, really dumb, like I don't let my dogs down the street.
Okay.
I feel a little bit guilty for yelling at that guy, even though I think he had it coming.
Oh, the dog guy?
Jeff T says, when I tell people I can't afford it, it's because I don't want it and I don't want to argue about it. Imagine if we just told people no. Like I have a hard time with it. No, I don't want to do that. Yeah. What are you doing this weekend? Not whatever the fuck you're about to ask me to do. Like, I just, for real, like,
yeah.
Like, just imagine if you just told people the truth. Why do we care about people's feelings, especially people who we don't know?
But he said he didn't want to argue about it. And I get that. But I think also, like, saying it, whether you believe it or not, like, your brain believes it. Like, I think it's bad for your future to use that language at all, because you're programming yourself to the negative. But if you say, I don't want one of those, or I don't want to go with you to the bar, or whatever it is they're asking about, then like that actually ends the discussion. Because I remember back when I was broke and like friends of mine wanted me to go out and I was saving up to do things in my life. And I would tell them the truth. Look, man, I'm in savings and work mode. And so I'm not going out Friday night. I'll go out one night a weekend. So I'll go out on Saturday night with you guys, but I'm not going with you on Friday too. And you know what they would always say? Shit like, oh, look, man, we'll like pick you up a couple rounds of drinks. And like, I still said no, because I'm like, if I go out, once I get a couple in me, then I'm going to have a couple more. And it's going to be, I got to be up at 6 a.m. I was working second jobs and shit on Saturdays. And like, I can't do this tonight.
Bad decisions. Or you end up with a pregnant chick. I mean, we're going to default to your lowest form of operating, right? So if we can't tell people, hey, I don't want to do that, what makes us think that when the time comes to make a decision that's going to save somebody's life, that we're going to make the correct decision? Like, just program that in there. It builds neural pathways. And right, Bob's right. We should make some bad decisions.
Yeah.
You end up with a pregnant trick.
I'm wondering what this looks like. Go make bad choices with Bob Lester.
Bob outperforms me on the financial side.
John, you sound like an NCO giving a safety briefing before a weekend. Don't come back with a pregnant chick.
Well, I mean, I have 7 kids.
Okay.
That's an ask me how I know moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say these things to kids now, right?
Yeah.
And I just hope that they'll hear them. And I know there was some demarcation in my life where adults would tell me something, and then I remember like when it clicks, and sometimes it's at 20, sometimes it's 30. You always heard it's an acquired taste. You're like, yeah, what the hell does that mean? I know I don't like that shit. And then all of a sudden you realize 20 years later you're eating it. It was an acquired taste. Your taste buds had to mature to appreciate those things. And I just hope that my kids, that it sinks into people I am around, young men and women. I hope that they understand it younger in life than I did.
And hopefully they will. Okay, so we've been on about 2 hours. You guys ready to wrap?
Yeah, man. I got to get to work.
All right. Jack, you go first.
I am Jack Spirko, host of the Survival Podcast. Please tune in. You can find the website at thesurvivalpodcast.com or tspc.co. Don't worry, I don't yell at you except maybe once a week. And otherwise, we try to be as proactive as we can. We teach everything from business and lifestyle design to homesteading and permaculture and regen ag. Again, tspc.co if you don't want to type in too many letters.
I'm Nicole Sauce of Living Free in Tennessee and Holler Roast Coffee, where I love to put pictures up of different mugs that I've found in my adventures. But what I'm interested in talking about is if you want to have these conversations in person, you have a chance to do that October 5th and 6th in Camden, Tennessee at Special Operations Equipment for Self-Reliance Festival. Check out more about that at self-reliancefestival.com. I am currently most excited, not about you, Jack, sorry, but I got somebody coming to build a forge on site and forge with fire, and I think that's really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. But I am excited about Jack and John's session, and Amanda Willis is doing a session. We've got all sorts of things from homesteading to building a better life to self-defense to preparedness, and it's going to be really fun. So check that out, self-reliancefestival.com. If you want to come a couple days early, Sunny Puzikas is doing 2 different courses on one is to how to de-escalate a situation, and one is self-defense. We've got Chuck Peoples doing a more advanced wound closure class. So we're focusing in on that there. And Friday before, we have about 7 or 8 teachers doing self-reliance boot camp that starts in the morning with processing a rabbit and goes through a bunch of different topics from making tinctures to how to grow a garden better, those sorts of things. So it's going to be a really full day. And that's all at self-reliancefestival.com. Why don't you bring us out, John?
I'm looking forward to seeing CJ Kilmer. Bear will be there as well. Hardways, Alaska. I do a live every night at 9 o'clock. Jump on and we'll talk about that question that you asked there. I definitely have some thoughts on that. SOEtacticalgear.com is the website. I do a live on my YouTube channel every night at 9 o'clock. Jump on. We can talk about anything that you guys want to. We do a different shirt every day of the week. This one says Save Our Republic. On the back, it says Join the Resistance. And you can see those on the website. Thank everybody. Thank you for your time. Thanks for being important enough to participate in this conversation here. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.